Good music, good music.
I'd like to call this March 2nd meeting of the Board of Education to order. And I would like to move first to the appointment of our new middle school principal, Lena Carolini Canavo, who's here with us today with her family and adopted mentor, supporter, who is a Hastings resident. We'll talk more about that. And I'd like to turn over to Bill.
So,
Tell us all about this in the process.
Sure. In the posted agenda, including the echo we're getting, no, the echo's not in the posted agenda. There's quite a detailed description of Lena, if I may use a first name at this point. Is the mic still on?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have been running here for several months a process to land a new principal for the middle school. There's been a fair amount of transition in the middle school, so that led us to run that much more of a robust process. It's been described quite frequently to families, to the staff, and others. It started, as I said, several months ago. We had over 100 applicants, so we should be proud that people very much want to work in Hastings and very much want to work at the Farragut Middle School. As we worked through the process, early on, I, with several others, did the initial screening to take that group of 100 down to 15. Very, very competitive. Along the way, I also conducted roundtables with families and staff. That roundtable information was assembled into a confidential document that became very important to the board, to me, and to the interview advisory committee, which I will get to in a second. That advisory committee, very representative of the various stakeholders who matter to our students here and to the new principal, put together a set of very difficult questions, both for the screening and also then for the interview. From the 15, we interviewed 5 over a 2-day period. After that group of 5 was interviewed by the advisory committee, 2 were recommended to me to dig into quite carefully and thoroughly. So while many of you are on vacation, those 2 finalists ventured into the facility to walk the entire facility with me and go through an extensive set of questions that I had, plus the committee still had. Lena was quickly rising to the top all the way through this process, first from the 100, then from the 15, then from the 5, and then with the 2. I've also been working in this tri-state area long enough that while Lena gave me 6 references, I went deeper and further in ways that would protect her privacy. And what came back, again, was Lena far ahead of anyone else at this point. You may know that she's currently a sitting high school principal for the last 3 years in a very competitive high school. Not as competitive as Hastings High School, but a very good one, which I'll let her name when she goes to the mic. This is her 21st year in education, her 19th year working in like districts. First in Rhinebeck as a world language teacher, fluent in Spanish, Italian, and English, a language I still try and master English. Went on to be an assistant principal for a number of years at Monarch High School, but has this sense of us as a medium-sized district, very high-powered. Her interest in applying to this job and what she assured all of us in the process was she wants to get back to middle school, where she had been a teacher, as a way to get that much earlier in the progression of young people as they head to high school and beyond. She wanted to get back to a place of a little more scale where you can actually work very closely with families and students and others. She also knows that the middle school, while a great place, is trying to get greater. And that's what the focus groups around the tables told us. She is here herself says, I'm a nester. I've worked in Rhinebeck and I've worked in Monarch. I plan to work in Hastings a long time. And that was part of what we were trying to sort through. So you'll see the materials that will be public any moment now regarding Lena. Her faculty and staff back in her high school don't know about this yet. She wants to tell them tomorrow. So there is a letter that will go out to all the families and residents tomorrow introducing Lena. But board, I would ask you to make your decision, and then Lena, we'd like you to go to the mic and say a few things. Is that a fair point?
Fair point. I want to say that the board had the opportunity to meet with Lena last week, and we were just through the roof delighted to be able to meet her and welcome her to our district. I think it was really exciting for everyone who was there, and Dave would fill you in on all of it if you haven't already. Good?
They have, yes.
Great. It was just, I think we even asked some tough questions, or some people did. And it was just such a pleasure. I think we all know that with all the changes that have occurred, that this is something that we are all so looking forward to have somebody like Lena with her background and her charisma and her poise and intelligence and experience to come in and be part of the administrative team. I think we all felt was just really such a great opportunity. I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything before we vote. Okay, then can I have a motion to approve the appointment of Lena Carolini Canavo as the Farragut Middle School principal, effective July 1st?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. You want to say
Congratulations.
I'm a little tall. Ooh, this is loud. Hello, hello. I would just like to thank Dr. McCursey and the Board of Education for this wonderful opportunity. I really cannot say it enough. It is an honor and privilege to serve as your next middle school principal. And I also want to thank Dr. Zemansky and Ms. Caraballo and all the individuals that were part of the interview process. It was a pleasure and it was impressive to meet so many individuals through the process, and can't wait to connect with more people of the community. Hastings, I know all of you know this, but Hastings is an incredible district. And I want to take a lot of the experience I have from Rhinebeck and now from Mamaroneck and be able to contribute all that I can to make it an amazing place for everyone and its continued success. And am really looking forward to together making it the best school it can be for our students. Because at the end of the day, my goal is that our students at Farragut Middle School will not only find joy in their learning, but they will thrive. And I think it's going to be wonderful, and I really can't wait to start. So I really appreciate this opportunity and can't wait to get to know a lot more people. And I'm looking forward to nest here in Hastings. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I just want to say also two things. Congratulations to your husband and children.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes,
thank you
they're
for
here.
sharing
Yes.
your mom with us. We'll try to take good care of her and not keep her here too late at night. And I also want to say that it's an incredible coincidence that I just had the opportunity to meet Dr. Barbara Ferraro, who is a resident of Hastings for 50 years. And she was Lena's teacher.
She was my high school principal. And then when I worked as a student at Rhinebeck, because I'm K through 12 student of Rhinebeck, and she was the high school principal and assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction when I taught at Rhinebeck, and then she was the superintendent of Rhinebeck when I was in Mamaroneck. Wow. And an amazing mentor as one of the leading female administrators at a time when there were not many female administrators in Westchester County. And so it is an honor for her to see me here and to support me. I learned a lot from her, so yes.
Well, and I just thought it was an incredible coincidence, and it's lovely to have you here, and you can come to board meetings. I told her she could run for the board.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
It's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you so much. Really looking forward to this. Thank you. Nice to meet all of you. Sorry for my back if I wasn't really turned. But yes, thank you again, really.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome.
So the spirit and energy you've just witnessed here and the intellectual rigor, because I didn't say that, but that is clearly who we have now in Ms. Lena. I'll go there. Don't worry, I'll use last names later. So just, families, we will set up some time for families to get to meet the new principal. The staff is very anxious to meet. You've got a big job right now. We want to respect that. We also want to take a little bit of the time over the next several months so people know who you are, and we'll be really looking forward to working with you. And I had met your lovely family earlier. I told them indirectly they interviewed very well because they were very present in the interview at key moments. So well done for getting a job for your mom. Good job. All right. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
It's great. Thank you. So I think we're going to move on now to hear from the principal of the high school, Andy Clayman, and athletic director, Drew Wendell, about the wrestling team and the restorative support program, and an update on that.
Is Drew here?
And you're welcome to stay, but you can leave and go have pizza or something when you're ready.
Congratulations, welcome. Good evening, everyone. I know that Drew will be joining shortly, but to get us started on an update for the wrestling program and the restorative support that went into place after an incident that happened in late December. I guess by way of preface, this specific one was a tricky situation to navigate, particularly because we had a serious incident, a series of serious incidents that we needed to make sure we communicated very clearly and unequivocally that we took very seriously. And at the same time, we had a ripe opportunity for young folks to learn from poor decisions and to repair the harm that they had done and to grow from that experience. So it was a both and situation. And I feel very strongly and very confident that we were able to thread that needle nicely of sending a strong message about behaviors that we took quite seriously, while also providing students with a clear pathway to repair, restore, and move forward. Drew, partner in crime, welcome. In late December, there was a significant behavioral incident that involved the Hastings varsity wrestling team. Following the initial disciplinary response and subsequent team meeting, it was apparent that there were some students who struggled to take ownership of their behavior and understand the severity of the incident and the possible ramifications. As a result, the district, and that was school building leadership in conjunction with the athletic department, implemented a very structured restorative support program to address the misconduct, repair the harm, support the student athletes, and restore the integrity of the program while maintaining the accountability. I think it's important to emphasize that throughout the process, we wanted to make sure we addressed the behavioral concerns without shaming the students for the behavior, hold the student athletes accountable for their actions. This one was very important to provide students with a very clear pathway for reinstatement based on their behavior and their academics. And that was, as we were engaging in conversations with the students, Drew did a ton of work to really get to the bottom of students knowing that they had a path forward, right? So to just have discipline without the possibility to grow from that felt very hopeless for some of our students. And for them to know precisely, here's the behavior, here are the continued concerns, and here's what you will need to do in order for us to move forward. We had behavioral contract sheets that were signed by teachers and monitored by counselors, and over the course of an extended period of time, students were really able to demonstrate their growth. To go into detail about what that looked like, between January 5th and January 20th, we had, and Drew, I'll let you speak to kind of the details on this, but a series of meetings with the individual students, with the team at large, with the coaches, academic monitoring and intervention. Like I mentioned, some specific behavioral plans with checkoffs from teachers, ongoing conversations with families, and in many instances, some counseling and mental health supports. And I'll turn it over to Drew to talk a little bit about the outcomes, and then I know that there were a couple other comments you wanted to make.
Hi everyone, sorry I'm late. I was just doing first aid and CPR. I'm going to just start off with, there's been a lot of rumors going around about the wrestling team which just aren't true.
Can you speak right into the
Yes.
mic? Thanks, Drew.
There's been a lot of rumors going around about the wrestling team that just aren't true. This group of student athletes are not bad kids. Although they made some poor choices, especially on school property, the incident was not hazing, bullying, or abuse. Immature and inappropriate, yes, but this was done without any malicious intent. They are good kids, friends, who made some bad decisions. When the incident was brought to light, I decided to pause the season so I could investigate and learn more about what went on, get to know the student athletes, and figure out the intent and severity of the incident. However, once people heard about it, without the content, it does look very, very bad, so it was decided to cancel the season. However, after getting to know the student athletes better, learning everyone's involvement and the lack thereof, and the intent behind the incident, it was clear that ending the season was not the best course of action. It was a perfect time to help these student athletes learn and grow from their mistakes. We felt there was a need to gain a true understanding of what it means to be an athlete who represents our school. They needed to learn how their actions, even if they are doing it amongst friends and not trying to hurt or embarrass anyone, how it can spiral out of control. They needed to learn what it means and is required to be a student athlete who represents Hastings, academically and behaviorally in and out of school. Although I wish it could have been learned differently, although I got to get to know the student athletes better and their families, which was a plus for me, I'm confident that they learned, and I'm proud of the progress that they made academically and behavioral, and how they continue to remain on task. They went from a team that struggled in school to a team that earned the New York State NISFA Team Scholar Athlete Award. The change in their attitude and demeanor is remarkable. I am excited to see them progress in life and proud to have them represent Hastings Athletics. They've been doing a great job. A lot of the stuff that we did is just trying to get them, there was a lot of meetings with me and one-on-one, just trying to get to them to understand that how them fooling around in school was not helping them out, and it was leading them down the bad path. So, now they all got back on the team, and they did great. They got to go to sectionals, and they did really well, and they continue to behave, and they continue to stay on track. There's been no other issues. I actually see them around school, and they're smiling and they're happy. So, this negative thing that happened actually came out to a positive thing on their, I feel like, for them. After it's all said and done, I think that they learned a lot from this, and I'm proud of them. What's up,
Am I allowed to ask a question? Yeah. So thank you so much for your presentations. It was really good to hear your perspectives and experiences. We've talked a lot about the students, some of the students involved, but I also wanted to hear about the students the victims in the situation, and see what kind of care and support they were given as well, just to hear that piece too.
Yeah, I met with them. It was really, everyone was pretty much like aware of what was going on, so they were all kind of like friendly, and it was a team thing. The coaches didn't have any awareness of it. It was happened outside, like some of the stuff happened in the hallways when they were supposed to be doing a warm-up. So like they were all aware of what's going on. There was nothing malicious about it. That's what we learned after it. So But I did meet with them and the families and talk to them about that. And if anyone needed counseling, we were actively with the guidance department and counselors to help anyone out that needed it.
Thanks, Drew, Andy. I guess the thing I'm curious about, I'm trying to wrap my head around, is I know the initial response to this incident was quite serious and quite severe, and that was back in December. And I don't like to, I also don't like to use the phrase bad kids. I really like to avoid that. But what I'm trying to put together is how did we get from a situation which, and I haven't seen anything, and that was quite severe, to now not calling it hazing and kind of alluding to an incident of somehow fooling around. Like, it seems like there's a disconnect in my head. I'd love an explanation how I can better understand this.
So let me start, and then, Andy can also fill in as the reigning administrator for the building, and then Drew. So as the situation came clear to me as superintendent, working very closely with both the middle school, though it was substantially high school administration, then with Drew, counselors and others, it was clear that the extent of that behavior, even to the potential point, though certain real things, required me as superintendent to make the decision to shut the program down, to send a very strong message, but then immediately say, how do we then work towards a restorative place? And the decision I made with a big background in athletics, but also then listening very carefully to the building leadership and Drew was, yes, lead with a very strong statement, bring attention to it, and then also say, how can we help this then be restorative? And that's where I see why it might sound like a disconnect, and there is student privacy here. So there's certainly we just are not going to talk about, in the sense of how but I think the key theme is we set a high standard for our student athletes around character. That line had been crossed more than I'd seen here in 5 years, and said have to bring it close to that, and then also immediately listening to the administrators, listening to the parents, listening to the athletes to say, student athletes, how do we help rebuild and bring it back? So, and I think for the board here is to say, we're still protecting the privacy of individuals, allow those themes, that sequence to be heard and understood.
No, I appreciate that, and honestly, I'm very pleased to hear about the response. It seems like everything that we've done since restored practices, and I'm thankful for the successful season. I mean, all of these things are great. I don't think that's my concern. I think my concern is, again, this idea that what was described to me back in December certainly felt like hazing, right? I played intercollegiate sports. I'm a victim of hazing, right? Both in high school and I hate to say it, in high school and in college. What I'm struggling with is why we're not calling it hazing anymore, because from what it was described to me, it sure sounded like hazing, Bill. And I'm not trying to throw any, like, it's not a gotcha question, but like.
Yeah, I think particular word choice, I mean, as superintendent at that point, I viewed it as hazing. I viewed it as the start of hazing. And then that's why I came down on it quickly and hard. And then said, let's dig into it, restore, and go forward to provide athletes a chance to come back and redeem themselves. So I know, Andy, if you want to add to this or not. I think we dealt head on with your concern.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things, as we, like Bill said, once we got a full sense during the course of our investigation of the extent to which there was misconduct, it was imperative that we acted definitively. And then as we were kind of, there's the individual misconduct of individual students, and then there's the team, right? And so to send a strong message from a team standpoint that it's unacceptable, but then also to not hold students, to not discipline students who weren't necessarily participating, or there was participation to varying degrees, and that's where it became super individualized. And where Drew and I met with each student and we said, you had no participation in this, and I need to understand that you get it. Because this can't happen again, but you weren't participating. Right? So in the future, if there's something that's looking, sounding, smelling like it's going in this direction, here's what you need to do to prevent your team from having this impact. And then we had a conversation with other students. You didn't participate like to the as your behavior wasn't egregious, but it was problematic, right? And here's what needs to happen moving forward. And so it was really, really, truly individualized to make sure that at the end of the day, for me as the building leader, to be able to sleep at night, that I know that nothing like that will happen again, and to look my students in the eye and know that they understand the severity of the behavior. And I cannot overstate how impressed I am with the growth of the students through this process. Separate from wrestling, the academics have improved significantly. The extent to which there were a little minor behavioral thing here or there, since this happened, nothing has come across my desk for these students. So it has been really impressive how seriously they've taken it and the growth that's transpired as a result.
Thank you. Can I add something? I think the disconnect that David was saying, particularly, is that it went from this language of hazing, and now today it kind of went to this language that the kids are good. And we know that the kids did the work. They put in the work and the time to repair what happened. But I think part of the acknowledgement of what occurred is not changing the language of what happened as we move past it. Still using the same language. This was an event of hazing. This is the outcome. This is what occurred. Because we're washing away the incident if we start calling it something else as time passes. I'm very proud of the students for what they did. I'm very proud for the team. I'm very proud for the administration to really go through this restorative process. But I think we still have to be consistent in the use of language when we talk about these incidents so the students understand the growth of it as well. So I don't have any issue with anything that happened. It's just we should just call it what we called it, that we had to shut down the whole program from the beginning. To have a reaction to shut down a program isn't, oh, this was just a misbehavior incident. This was serious incidents, and we should be consistent with that language moving forward.
I think that's a great summary and good point. I agree totally. I think from where it went to where it landed, and I think certainly two board members and others, I think it's being clear about the language. I think a lot of districts would have stopped at the shutdown. A lot of districts wouldn't have taken the step to say how to restore and bring back, and that required patience all the way through. And so I really think you stated it well. And I hear the coaching in the sense of the terminology and where we're going. Yeah. To me, quite critically, is what Mr. Klayman and Mr. Wendell are saying, Andy and Drew are saying about where we've evolved to. And I think that matters, and where we are going to be in the future.
I have a question. What has been talked about with the whole high school community? Has there been any kind of high school town hall or any?
Or just how has it been talked about and explained to all the other students?
Right.
Sure. Funny you should ask. We have a town hall scheduled for next Thursday. This is one of the topics. It is one of the. We want to be able to address it without engaging in any sort of kind of finger pointing or shaming or any of that, because Drew had some extensive conversations with students of the. Do you want to explain kind of what some of the psychological effects in the comments that were made?
Yeah. See, with a lot of the stuff that was going on, the students started to get like, let's see, what the best way to say it, kind of like picked on. They come into class and then they were judged and comments were being made to them. So that was playing a big toll on them. With it, that's why it was important to try to get them back involved. I know we don't want to call it like you guys want to call it hazing, but I still feel like it wasn't to that extent of hazing. But at the time that when we all saw what was going on, it was a good decision. Like, it was a decision made because we didn't really know. There isn't a culture of hazing with this group. we never had an issue. The coaches never it was nothing that happened except over that short little period of time when they were in the cafeteria unsupervised. That's not excusing their behavior, but it's just giving you a context that they were doing it like with their friends. And I don't like saying it like that. They're joking around with their friends, but it wasn't done maliciously like hazing would be, to try to, make someone feel bad about themselves and stuff like that. That's why I look at it differently. So
No, I don't want to interrupt. I mean, I understand that completely, Drew, and I don't. I think it's a spectrum, right? I'm not trying to point this as being, but I do, whether nefarious or otherwise, I do think there's a spectrum to what we would consider hazing, right? And it manifests in a lot of different ways, physically, emotionally. I'm not saying it has to be this idea of the worst thing possible, but what I don't want to do is minimize it, because I know the impact initially was really strong. Your reaction and what you've done with the students, which is absolutely fantastic, and I'm really happy. That was a big step for something that sounds like was a big, so that's where I just don't want to minimize this, right? I mean, we can call it what we're going to call it, and I don't think we need to kind of go back and forth on that. And that was kind of really, if I didn't, was kind of my...
No, I get that. I just, and they did get a lot of, I guess, punishments from it, right? They lost their season, a lot of it, all league and all that, but...
Consequences.
So they the consequences of what they had to go through does show them that we don't tolerate that. I guess it's a different level of what it could be. It could have got worse if it wasn't intervened.
And that kind of speaks to the little preface of really this situation was a tricky one, of trying to walk that knife's edge of really demonstrating that there was inappropriate behavior that is unacceptable and the severity of it, while also recognizing that there were varying degrees of involvement, and also to provide students with a path forward without neglecting the harm, to take that harm, to address that harm head on and understand how to move forward.
I just had a couple questions. How many games or tournaments or whatever were missed? Was anything missed in terms of the season itself?
Yeah, we had to forfeit all our league games. It took away any of our athletes' chances of getting any awards, postseason awards, so no all league, all section, any of that. We had a mad scramble to add meets and go to a lot of away meets and host a lot, just in order enough to get them to have enough to qualify for sectionals. So they lost a lot of their season. So we didn't win any all league. We won no league matches. So that was 6 games, 6 meets right there. And then we had to forfeit a lot of the other ones and then scramble and get different opponents in a tighter span.
So try to make them up for minimum kind of
just sort of
play.
Yeah, at least get a part of the season in.
Got you.
And then a learning for me, because I have athletic backgrounds but not wrestling, was that we had some students who did not participate, but because of the unique nature of wrestling, they could be reinstated, while the students who had participated to a larger degree, they were still engaged in more of the restorative work and they were on the sidelines cheering their teammates on and working on being good teammates, but they were not allowed to participate either. So as compared to maybe a basketball team or a football team where if you don't have 6 people, you can't play. Wrestling, if we had one student who didn't really participate, was it fair for that student to not have an opportunity to continue to compete? And the unique nature of wrestling allowed for a little bit more of a nuanced, individualized approach.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just a curiosity more than anything on the academic piece of it. So I know that was kind of part and parcel and I'm really happy to hear the restorative practices seems to have worked, and it's kind of a feel-good story. Maybe the silver lining is that they got their grades up in a short amount of time, but I'm just curious, is that typically, can anyone answer if it's typical? And what happens if a person did all the other things right, but they didn't, he didn't get his grades up? With that, how do you use that as leverage it sounds like it was a positive result, but that could backfire too. I'm just wondering if we have kind of parameters around how we might say, this is your academic piece, you didn't get your grades up, Because we're really not talking about the grades
We-
before this, right?
We did not tell any students, you are ineligible because of your grades. It was behavior, right? It was behavior that they engaged in that was inappropriate, and that was the focus. That said, behavior in the wrestling arena, and then behavior in the hallways, and then behavior in the classroom. So for us to be able to draw a clean line between those, clean through line, and say, again, I looked the students in the face and I said, I need to know that you get it and that nothing like this will ever happen in this building again. And anything like this, I'm not worried about what's happening in wrestling practice. Like, I get that you learned that lesson, but it's about your conduct throughout. And for me to know that you get it, I will be talking to your teachers to confirm that your behavior I'll be talking to the hall monitors, right? If your name comes across my desk in any sort of negative way, then I'm not convinced that you get it. And so I think that level of focus for them on their behavior had an upstream effect of not to mention their parents were also riding them pretty hard about making amends. So I think that the families also deserve some credit from that respect.
Thank you.
I just want to thank the board for walking a fine line here and talking about something that relates directly to our students still actively here and finding a way to look at the larger lessons. I made a tough decision. I did that with advice and counsel. I would not change that decision again. And also that I'm very impressed with Andy as high school principal, where most of the athletes at that point were, to take this on, working with Drew. But I said, Andy, you need to own this and take responsibility, working with Drew carefully, working with the counseling staff, assistant principals. For a while, the middle school's involved with one or two of the athletes. But I think we don't want this to happen again. We have an example of how to deal with it when something like this may happen. That you hold people accountable. We try and protect privacy as best we can. It's a small place, so people do chatter about things, but then to respect, yes, those students were affected in multiple ways, but build forward. So this is a tricky conversation to have. I thank the board for venturing into it. I know you wanted to. And then I really thank Andy and Drew and those all with you for working on this. And I really thank the student athletes for bearing with this and stepping up on it, because I was in those initial rooms, not just with the administrators, but with all of those athletes, with Mr. Clayman, Mr. Wendell, Dan Waldeck, who, by the way, wrestled in high school, so we had a lot of sense of to say, we're taking this seriously, and then they took to say, let's grow. So I hope we can keep growing when we hit these situations. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Drew and Andy. So let's move on to this. Let's move on to the superintendent's report.
So I move up here just because too much of my life hitting soccer balls, I can't turn too well, so I apologize. But we've just been through a very, I would say at times, difficult conversation. And board meetings are going to have those. That's what they're about, and that need to happen. So every meeting, and we come to bring the positives, the celebrations, and indeed, here we are celebrating kindness. This document's in the public record. I won't read all the words. I don't believe in reading PowerPoints. You all can read better. But this is a critical theme at Hillside, and we keep trying to bring ways, particularly as our nation now in our world, what we're going through in terms of another major military conflict, we have to keep reminding ourselves in Hastings, how are we an oasis for kindness? And here's some images, photos of this. This is put together by Melissa DeLivera quite substantially, and I really appreciate the effort on this, and I'm going to mispronounce every single name I come across in my life, so bear with me. Here are more examples of the celebrating kindness. I read to all of these students every single class. One of my nice moments at a basketball playoff last week as a kindergartner I just read to came up and gave me a fist pump. So that was a nice moment for me. Sorry, I got to be self-centered once in a while. Now we go to the classroom looking at FMS. Our debaters are doing a phenomenal job. Doing a phenomenal job, debaters. Hastings should be a place that debate thrives, and it is thriving. You can read there all of these incredible awards. Davida Cruz met with me today. I had not told the other administrators this. She's pitching to get more help and assistance through our Schedule B program. I think she's up to some 45 students participating. They are doing incredibly well, and anyone who knows Hastings would say this is a natural and important signature for us. Here they are, image of them with their awards. Many of them you know well. Now we go into looking at the high school academic field day. This is a wonderful tradition. It's gone back, I would say, 15, 20 years. It's a time, 30, 40, 50 years. Jody's saying more, maybe 100 years. It's gone on for a long time. But we have a very hardworking high school. Maybe Joaquin and Ella can speak to this when they get to their report. For a little while, I have actually run a session on you want to be a superintendent, really? Question mark. And I'd usually get about 15 or 20 in the room. I could not do that this time, but you can see here the great range of activities. And anyone who's had a student who's in high school at this point, particularly junior, senior year, this sort of academic break from the academics in a very fresh, creative way is important, and it's a community building moment. I think our students see that our faculty are more than social studies, history, science, that they have a set of other interests they can bring forward for them. Here's some images from it. I want to congratulate Cara Tomeo, who, if you watch our website, it evolves, it's alive. Plus, if you follow our social media in a good way feeds, our Instagram, there's lots of wonderful imagery now, images, photos of what our students are doing. Upcoming Willy Wonka Kids Day, this is the portion of my report where I start advertising. Please be there, attend, enjoy. Another advertisement, Chili Cook-Off fundraiser. We are willing for those groups that are part of us, our boosters, PTA, SEPTA, to help promote and push. Please be there. Speak Up is coming March 10th. A really important partnership for us with IWG. It's a portion of the PTSA, really helping us think about ways to be present with dignity and respect in all sorts of ways. They had been part of us for the Exploring Equity course that's gone to another level at FMS, and now this is a follow-on. Kindergarten registration, this is in every 2 weeks. Our enrollment is very strong here in Hastings, and also we keep reminding people this is an incredible place to be. Upcoming events, this is always in the presentation, and again, this is all in the public record. Now, I have two other updates, very substantive. First off, we have launched, now that we've successfully landed an incredible middle school principal, we are now looking for an equally incredible assistant superintendent of PPS. We have an interim right now in Gene Ferrigio, who we wooed out of retirement to come in and spend a year with us, helping us to think about our whole people personnel services area, particularly special education. Jean was working incredibly hard. She's here at about every other board meeting. She'll be here on March 17th when the principals and Jean present as part of the unified instructional budget, talk about their portions of it. But we are actively now, we've posted since February 10. We will be bringing to the board on April 21, if all goes well, a top flight new administrator for you to vote on and appoint. You as a board will have another executive session opportunity a few days ahead of that. In between will be a very robust process that we've just run for the principal. It will include an advisory committee, the document that's posted in the material today, and will be going out to the entire village and community through the board notes that Melissa does after all of these meetings. We'll list specifically who's involved. But again, it'll be administrators, teachers, clerical support, helping to meet with a set of candidates we will bring to hopefully to result in a very strong top finalist for you. The other announcement, update really, is that you as a board 2 meetings ago, or might have been last meeting, had charged the administration with moving ahead on creating a new administrative position. That is taking our existing DEI coordinator and shifting that to be an administrative role. So budgetarily a flat move. but it is an administrative ad. But you as a board were strongly endorsing us as administration to get out and work on that. And that would be a position titled Interim Director of Student Belonging, picking up key aspects of the quality of life here for all students and staff and faculty, but particularly our students of color. As an administrative role, we'll pick up more direct role in evaluation, teacher support by individual evaluation. It'll pick up much more work around the Dignity Act, other aspects of the Code of Conduct, but ways to really bolster what we're doing, but give what will be particularly on the evaluation, the teacher support and direction, and also the accountability of students with restorative, from that earlier theme you heard from the wrestling program, but to bring that to us. Good news is I met today with the HTA. This work, as it currently exists in a teacher role, is the work of the union, and in collective bargaining houses as we exist in, you need to then sort out when it's no longer in the HTA unit, where does it sit? So strong agreement today. There'll be a side letter board that you will need to sign at the next meeting, just simply saying this work is now rightly so administrative work. Still to include teachers very actively, but administrative work. The other thing in the March 17th budget, there'll be a line item now dedicated, as there has to be for an administrative position, there'll be a line item dedicated to this position. So once we have the side letter in process, we will post for this position and begin both an internal and external search for that occupant, and we will then be bringing a candidate to the board, we hope, pretty soon. From some things I shared with you this weekend, you now have quite a good update in sense of the conversation this afternoon with Nate Morgan, HTA president. So we are full speed ahead on this work. And everything I've just shared is in the public record and in the materials posted online.
Bill, I wanted to kind of caveat the budgetary piece of it. So it's an interim position, which means it's spoken for in the budget for that year, but we still have conversations around where that money will come from, because it has to come from other places.
Yeah, we'll lay that out very clearly for you. Part of it is we are transitioning from a teacher line over, so but we'll make that very, very clear.
Thank you.
Make it very clear. Any other questions right now? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill, and I'm glad we're moving along with that. With both the assistant superintendent search and the director of student belonging position. Let's move on. Maureen, you want to give us an update?
Sure. So the update I'm going to provide first also reflects the facilities meeting that we had last week, and it's some updates around the bond and some updates there for y'all. So far we've received 3 approvals from the state on our proposed projects associated with the bond. Currently we've received approval for our masonry restoration project at Farragut Complex. We previously updated the board that the field work had also been approved first, and the bids for that are currently out, and as well as the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work at the Hillside School. Currently, we're working very closely with the architects on the masonry and the MEP work, as both of these projects will span a course of 12 to 18 months. We're hoping and anticipating that we'll be able to kick off that work this summer, as especially the work here at Hillside. It will pretty much touch the footprint of the building, not including this addition, because it's upraised to all of that. So it'll be a lot of coordination around, because of course, as everyone knows, this building is heavily used all year round, and it will require us to kind of work with even outside groups to see like what we may need to shift around. Also, our field work is currently out to bid. Thus far, we've had about eight contractors as of a couple of days ago that have picked up plans to participate in our bid. We have a contractor walkthrough scheduled this week, and we're encouraged by the improving weather conditions as being on the fields and being able to get a good assist in the site analysis and evaluation will be helpful for the bid process. We're anticipate some competitive bid participation and look forward to reviewing the bids once received. An update to the Farragut Complex additions. We expect that will be submitted to the state in about the next month and a half or so. And once state approval is received, the projects will go out to bid, and we'll need to carefully coordinate scheduling and sequencing, of course, for that work. We're really pushing to get that project in, as some of the site work, it would be best if it could start late summer, as there's, oil tank replacement, relocations, and some other dormant tanks need to be removed from the property. So we're really hoping that that can get pushed through the state relatively quickly, so we can begin some of that work, and we may break that out into various components of contracts. For design and budget adjustments, this is an important update for the whole board. This was discussed at length at the facilities meeting as the design has progressed. So the last time that the architects and engineers were in front of the board, at that time they were at, even though it looked relatively detailed, it's a very early schematic design. And as those designs are brought into engineering and all the rest, they're able to get much greater understanding of the cost of the project. So there's multiple iterations of that process, and then with each there's a new budget that is updated by our construction manager, and they're really the ones with the expertise to kind of go through, and it's like line by line of all the work, because it needs to really have a full understanding. It's beyond that square foot number. They're really getting into much more of what it will end up really costing, and one of the most notable things that we did have to make a decision on was we had to make some modifications because it was trending, especially the addition was trending over budget. And that's not good at this time you have to kind of get yourself back into that budget. And, some of it is obviously things they had put in kind of everything in the hopes that if it was affordable, we could continue. But one of the design modifications we've had to make is the proposed walkable roof element has been eliminated from the design. While it was a desirable feature, it was not a core component of the bond's purpose. As when we spoke about it, it was really about wayfinding, gaining 8 classrooms, and then of course a correctly sized cafeteria. I think in that design they saw an opportunity to potentially add that, but in terms of the engineering required around that and the cost, it was going to be at least an over $1 million add to the project. The type of roofing material alone that you'd have to put on there, so we said, well, because it's all in the structural integrity of the building, the roofing product alone was over $400,000. The structure needed would have added about $600,000. So, and that's not even including the additional steps on the elevator, the cutting through of walls and all the rest. So really looking at that, and we were well over $1 million over budget. That was something, because everything else you'd be sacrificing the size of the cafeteria. I mean, anything else you really, we need the elevator, we need the bathrooms, we need all the other components. And really we're, at that point, at this stage of the game, we did make that decision. So, we wanted to update the facilities committee and the board because, again, there's a timeliness to this and decisions, and as the design evolves and the engineering evolves around it, and things such as other things with the state, there's fire protections and different kind of building code additions that we're being asked to include that now have significantly increased the cost. So just that one, I know we were all excited about it, and we talked about, is there a way to put it in later? You can't, because once the building is built, and again, that's just a dollar amount that exceeds what we're able to do. So that was just a really important update that I think we wanted everyone to understand. But we are very pleased that all the core elements of the project remain intact, particularly the elevator, additional bathrooms, some additional learning spaces we're able to gain, and of course the basement elements that are still within the project. But other than that, overall, all the other projects are tracking actually much better across all of our projects through early estimating, including the field work and all the rest. We're currently trending under budget in all our other components, and we've been able to maintain alignment with the bond framework while preserving the most critical elements. And now just a quick update about our budget. So at our next budget board meeting, we'll present the instructional budget, and the members of the leadership team will be in attendance to review components and answer some questions. Since our last meeting, as an example, our budget has changed quite a few times. One notable adjustment to our budget is in working with special ed and building level leadership, they uncovered that with some of the programming that they would like to introduce, particularly at Hillside, that with the scheduling and the students' needs, that there needed to be an increase of FTE. So, I had to go back and add another FTE to the budget. There were some other adjustments around actually co-curricular that as we're now trending through the year, some additional trips such as the Frost Valley trip now that we're going, the district bears some costs in that. So I've had to make about 3 or 4 different, some minor, the addition of a new teacher needed to be included in this budget. So I've had to kind of go through, I'm not even finished with it yet, to kind of manage that, because as the board knows, with the, one of the ways I'm addressing it is I am moving more money out of fund balance right now until I have a more clear understanding if we may get some other potential breaks in what we're anticipating. But, when Bill just said I'm like thinking about the debate club, I'm like, oh gosh, no, because we're already well over in our co-curricular spending for this year. So again, the budget, obviously, as we're presenting it, it's still evolving and changing, and sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. Again, we are committed in keeping it at that current tax levy that we were required to bring to the board. So again, as I said, right now I'm proposing an increase of additional fund balance, and then going back through each line item and making adjustments across all the line items to ensure that we can address some of these new additions. And as we continue the budget planning, I'm actually meeting with colleagues throughout Westchester. We usually do this to kind of check in to see where each person is. And, as I had mentioned, the tax cap calculation is unique for each district, where ours is currently under 3%. Most of the river towns have a tax levy allowable limit of over 4.5%. And just as an example, that 1% for us differentials at least $500,000 to $600,000. So it's that significant, that tax cap impact, and it is unique to districts. It's based upon brick and mortar assessed valuation growth. So, just as an example, where some could, and some may have a lower one than us as well. So sometimes when people speak to overriding a tax cap, it really is based upon what your tax cap is, right? So if it's 2% versus 4.5%, that's a large differential. So I know that some of my colleagues were indicating, not all, but some that are similar to us that have a 3 to 3.5% growth factor are potentially looking to do overrides this year. But we always, we look at what we have to do here locally, but just, of course, all of my colleagues, and we all compare kind of notes on where everybody kind of feels they are this year. So that's it. So again, just wanted to give you a brief budget update, and like I said, the much larger, we'll probably be speaking about the budget at least 2 hours at our next meeting, I would anticipate. So that's my update.
Anybody? Questions?
RIP science roof.
You good, Catherine?
Could we see a revised schematic on what the new roof,
Sure.
what the new roof looks like, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Sloped, I guess.
Yeah, no, it'll actually look the same. It'll be flat. It just won't be what is considered a walkable roof. So to make something walkable requires certain engineering components that are far different. Like, it doesn't mean that if there was mechanical work needed, they could walk on the roof, but in terms of it to be eligible to be a loaded roof for people to use it the way they intended. And we do anticipate our architects, that was one of the things we spoke about. We meet every week about, I think Bill will look at the schedule when we think it'll make sense for them to come back to again. I think we know we'll be having the fields, the bids coming back on that. So I would imagine in the next month or so, they'll be coming back to the entire group again to update the board. And then I think at that point, it'll be the plan in which it's going to be submitted to the state. So you'll have all the elements. Welcome.
And so Maureen, we'll continue to have updates in terms of the fields and the turf.
Yes.
There's a lot of concern in the community about what the product's going to be and how we're going to choose it.
Yes.
I think we're going to continue to have some meetings and be talking about that whole process.
Yes, so as I had said, we have our own internal meetings. Typically, I mean, we have formal ones, and then we also have formal where there may be a larger group of people, and then we also are in constant contact with our architects and construction manager. But I had mentioned at the facility committee meeting, we will be adding more between our board meetings, there'll be a need to have more facility meetings as well, similar to finance, because this is the time of year in which between board meetings, we want to get together and kind of update the board as a subgroup, and then of course the larger board will also receive the information. But with the bids coming out and the construction manager and the team will also come back to the larger group, but you can kind of understand, because there's a whole process once the bids are received and interviews that are conducted with the potential bidders, and to ensure that all the specifications are vetted and all the rest. So I'm sure they'll either at a facilities meeting and then at the larger meeting. But so we'll be seeing them both ways. Like as an example, because the budget presentation will be so extensive, the next time we'll probably want a facilities committee meeting in between, not to let too much time go before they come back to you as a larger group.
And you as a board will vote on whatever that final contract is, and you'll have plenty of time to discuss it, look at it. So, and that'll be all done in public through posted meetings.
Yeah. Yes.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to Melissa Dr. Szymanski for a report on curriculum and instruction report, and maybe a little bit of trip to Italy.
A little bit of other, yes. Good evening, everyone. During our last Board of Education meeting, I provided a more comprehensive update on mathematics work that's underway, and I will continue to keep the board updated on that work over time. I'd like to confirm tonight that we were able to secure appropriate staffing for 3 sections of math enrichment for a cycle of 10 weeks this year. Each section will take place twice weekly for 30 minutes. 1 section will run before school, 2 will run after school. Dan Waldeck and I met together with the 3 teachers who will be sharing this Schedule B assignment. And we are aligned that we need to be coherent in the 3 different sections. And so we're in the process of designing the Schedule B to ensure that alignment. And the offering is going to be available to students who already qualified. So I had sent out a survey, there were criteria listed, it was noticed, and families responded if they were interested. So we are able to make that come to fruition. It will be starting the week of March 16th. That is within a couple of weeks, 1 week earlier than I thought we could do, but our teachers are really rolling up their sleeves and they're moving quickly on that process. Direct communication will be sent to families by the middle school, so that outreach will happen shortly. We are working with date and time preferences that families originally expressed, so we'll offer some people said Monday, Tuesday, some said Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever it was. So we did our best to cluster students so that we make sure that we are scheduling them at a more convenient time for the families. We're in the process of investigating whether or not, so this is separately, whether or not 7th grade double accelerated math will be offered next year, and that's part of our mathematics work with the department. So at this time, this is not a planned offering for students. So while Algebra 1 criteria was put out publicly for rising 8th graders, it was communicated that at this time there isn't a criteria for 7th graders, rising 7th graders, because we are not currently planning the offering. We are still considering that within the broader scope of our mathematics coherence work. So this will be confirmed shortly. Our next work session as a department is going to take place on Monday, March 16th, and that will be with our thought partner and the entire middle school team that's been working on this. So I'll be back to you on that shortly. Also, I wanted to note that our high school program of studies indicates that a class average for the year of 85% must be attained in algebra for students to be recommended into geometry for placement there. So Andy Clayman, Lori Offiero, and I will be meeting with the high school mathematics department on Wednesday to discuss this prerequisite. It's been in place for many years, and it's particularly important that we revisit this in light of the new high school course placement protocol. Previously, there were overrides that had been occurring. Again, this had been living in the program of studies apparently many, many years, predating all of us, actually. So we're looking into that with the department. I just wanted to be transparent about that, front and center. It has been raised as a concern. We're taking it seriously, and we're looking into that. So that's a little bit more about mathematics, and we are ongoing. We also had 2 trips that recently occurred, and so I will not step on the toes of Columbia. I'm assuming that there will be student comment about that. I did put some notes into the public record on both the Latin trip to Italy and the Spanish trip to Colombia. So you want to do Colombia?
I'm sorry, I just had a question about mathematics.
Sure.
The 3 sections of math enrichment is for 7th graders currently, right? So I'm sorry, Ella and I were not here.
Correct.
I don't think. For 7th graders currently, and it's for 7th graders that are going to accelerate into Algebra 1 next year.
Not necessarily. So there are students that are taking 7th grade enrichment as part of the regular school day program. There are also students that are not taking 7th grade enrichment that we wanted to make sure that we were creating an experience for them to be able to have access to that. And so rather than redoing schedules, navigating FTE that wasn't available, we figured out a creative solution to make sure that we could provide more enrichment, 7th grade enrichment, to students who were interested in receiving 7th grade enrichment but were not eligible based on the criteria. So there was a process and a decision made at the middle school level last year. Once it was understood that more broadly, there was a hope that more students would be participating in enrichment. This would be to help from an equity-based perspective the students who do not currently have access to enrichment but would have qualified, could have qualified, given certain criteria. We made sure that it was available to them, and it's being done through a Schedule B position.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. I know we're not technically at student comment yet. I'll hold. Can we go back and forth a little bit? I'll do Italy, Latin trip to Italy, and then we'll go to Colombia. Okay, so last weekend, students returned from midwinter recess adventures in Italy, and that included some cultural immersion, a vaporetto ride, traditional meals, a cooking lesson, hands-on learning, archaeological tour in Pompeii, art and architecture in Florence, Vatican history, and visits to many iconic cities. So students who participated in that trip went to Venice, to Florence, to Siena, Assisi, Sorrento, and Rome. And so on the first day, which I'm saying we because I was asked to be the administrative chaperone on that trip, and we left on Valentine's Day, and that first night, the hotel was the airplane, and that was a nice overnight adventure. And the jet lag was fierce, but everyone did an excellent job of pushing through that. Students arrived to Venice and transferred by a motor launch to the hotel, and they used water bus passes to explore the canals of Venice and the city. And we had dinner together, saw some of the city's iconic sites in the evening after rubbing eyes and that long travel day. Florence was the next stop. And so after spending some time, again in Venice, and actually many of the students chose to take a gondola ride. There was a little misconception that it was a ski lift. And so once people figured out that there was another option of gondola, there was more participation in that, and that was really exciting. It was quite lovely to see the excitement about that. saw lots of different sites, which are again in public record. Enjoyed a glass blowing demonstration. Venice is very famous for Venetian glass, so that is a history that's passed on. So that was a glass blowing demonstration that they enjoyed. Travel to Florence was a Tuscan cooking lesson was the highlight there, and students prepared homemade pasta. And they cooked chicken, and they made a whole big feast. And that was really incredible for them to make that from scratch and then have dinner together. Very, very special. Students experienced guided sightseeing. They saw the Duomo, the Ponte Vecchio, some of the different piazzas. They had a little bit of free time and exploration. I've never seen so much gelato eating in my entire life, but it was well worth it. They visited a local leather shop, and they participated in a couple of the students were selected to do a fashion show with some of the leatherware there, which was quite impressive, actually. They traveled to Siena for a walking tour, including the Cathedral of St. Catherine, continued to Assisi, which is a medieval hill town and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, touring the Basilica of St. Francis, visiting the Crypt of St. Clair. Pompeii and Sorrento. The next stop was Pompeii. Students toured ancient ruins with a local guide, explored houses, baths, and the Forum. And then they visited a working mozzarella farm and watched the production of fresh mozzarella cheese and enjoyed a farm-prepared dinner. Headed to Sorrento for the evening. And then final days were spent in Rome, guided walking tour of the city, viewing of public art, Spanish Steps, the Trevi Fountain. There were lots of wishes that were taking place with the throwing of coins, the Pantheon, local shops. And then the last days were spent in Rome. Students toured the Vatican museums, the Sistine Chapel, St. Peter's Basilica. After lunch, they toured the Colosseum and the Roman Forum, learning about ancient Roman history. Time in the afternoon was dedicated for students to explore other parts of Rome. And there was interest in visiting the Jewish ghetto, so that happened as well for those who were interested. And then the group's final dinner featured authentic Roman pizza and a celebratory evening stroll around the Piazza Navona, which of course included more gelato. After 9 days, students flew back home. We are extremely thankful to the pilot of the plane who got us back 50 minutes early by moving incredibly quickly through the airspace. We landed just before that heavy snowstorm / blizzard hit. We made it right back to Hastings and the snow started. So, shout out to the pilot because that was really incredible. And clearly that was a plane that was arranged by multiple different tour agencies. I walked on and there were over 300 students on the plane. I mean, it was really incredible. So there was urgency to move students back to New York quickly, and very grateful for that. So many wonderful adventures, culturally, linguistically, and otherwise, and a lot of growing. When students travel together over a period of time, they develop such autonomy and independence in such a short period. It's incredible. I mean, even as much as setting alarms and being where you need to be on time, we were combined with another group from South Carolina because we were a small but mighty Hastings group. So even socially, developing new relationships quickly, navigating different interests of two different groups and how to build alignment around that. Really very special, keeping track of your belongings from one city to the next. As you can see, there was a lot of movement that happened. So I'm really proud of our students. It was an absolute pleasure. On the last day, we did a rose and thorn protocol about our favorite things and the things that were most challenging. And we went through, and at the end, the students asked me, Dr. Szymanski, what was your favorite thing? And hands down, it was spending time with the students. It was such a gift to spend time with the students as a chaperone. So I have a lot here also on Columbia, but I don't want to...
Can I ask you something about the Italy trip?
Yes.
It sounds wonderful, but as I hear you talk about it, having been to many of those places. In hindsight, would you have gone to so many places? If you were to do this again, and you went to it was a lot of traveling to
Yes.
different places.
Yeah,
And I
it's-
get the pull to want to get stuff in.
Yes, and I truly appreciate the question, and Mrs. Driscoll, hats off to Mrs. Driscoll, who is the most fearless, incredible leader ever on these excursions. 100 million% student-centered and always choosing what's right for kids all the way through. Originally, this was not the itinerary, but because of the size of the group, made a concession to be able to make sure that students went. And so it was supposed to be a 7-day, fewer cities. So I think she would maintain her current position. I would support it. Less is more sometimes. Zeroing in. I know with the Spanish trip, it was one space, much more immersive, and she has already begun thinking about that and thinking forward a couple of years from now what the trade would be and again, where the best educational experience could be for the students.
Appreciate that.
The only question I had, this was a really dumb question, but does this personal device policy, does it apply internationally? Like, I was curious, what do you do with the phones when the kids were?
Well, it was occurring over a break. So there was no intersection with school. It was a school adjacent trip rather than a school trip. And so it was elective. But what I can tell you with utmost certainty, and I was unpopular for 5 seconds and then it faded, we did not allow devices at the dinner table at all.
Thank you.
And our students were amazing with that. And the conversation flowed and the connection flowed and the stories flowed, and it was truly a joy. The protocol was it was okay to take the phone out to take a photograph of your special food, and then it has to stay away for the entire meal, and that's what we did.
That's great.
I have a question just regarding Jody's comment as well. Did you travel by bus and train?
I was also curious.
Bus, and in Venice by water. Yes, but just bus. And we did not take the subway on this particular trip. It was motor bus only, and then the Vaporetto and the water taxis.
Because this is a massive amount of travel. Every time I go to Italy, I usually every day or two I'm moving around too, and I always come back exhausted, and just hearing your story was a little exhausting, but it's also amazing that you saw all those places in 9 days.
I know. It was amazing. The students were amazing.
Were you waking up at 5 a.m. to
I
catch
would
buses
wake
to-
up earlier than that for bed checks to make sure, we were following our own protocols. But yes, we were moving.
I mean, it's adventurous, and young people can
They were
easily do
incredible.
that.
They were incredible.
Thank you.
You want to talk about Columbia?
Yes.
Students?
Yes, and I can pick up anything,
So we're moving to the student report anyway.
please.
Okay, I mean, dinner without phones is understandable, but Cartagena without phones there would have been riots. So Colombia is the big thing. Can I just get into the report right now, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so Colombia is the big thing on our report, but we have a couple of things we want to touch on before that. So as Dr. McCursey was talking about, academic field day was a Friday before break. We were exposed to our teachers' passions, right? It's always great to see what our teachers are interested in outside of what they teach, what subjects they're in. I was with all my friends in all 3 of my classes, a badminton tournament, Mr. Wilson's dressing for men, and Mr. Hunt's tea exploration. It was very, 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 very cool. The middle school science fair was last Saturday. Middle school students presented on their own independent research that they had been working on with the guidance of high school students. So it's a really great setup we have with middle school students and then students in science research, high school, building up this investigative talent so that by the time it gets to sophomore year, freshman year application, you have a great pool of students who are ready to get into the more professional science research class. So we want to give a big congratulations to all those who participated. There were some really amazing projects that I heard about and also worked on myself, mentoring these kids. But really what we want to highlight is that When we mentor these kids, we're really just guiding them along a pathway, right? And they're the ones doing all the work. They're the ones carrying their projects. So it's their curiosity, their dedication to their independent research that's pushing them to get these amazing projects done. Okay. In the high school level, we want to give a shout out to David Franco, Henry Sliker, and Rian Kazmarzik. They were all invited to present at the U Albany Science Symposium Fair for high schoolers. It's a great opportunity to present and practice talking and defending your research in front of judges for larger competitions like WESF, where you can qualify for ISEF, International. And Henry and Rian won third prize in their category, Biomedical and Health Sciences, Bioinformatics, for their presentation on predicting bilayer modifying potency using random forest models. And they took home $200 in cash. So that's awesome, yes. And on the topic of presentation and exhibition, Mr. Lopez's Spanish 5 honors class, Ella and I included, are going to give our presentations on our passion project soon. This is at the Passion Project exhibition on Wednesday, March 11th. Deadline was pushed back because of the nights overstaying in Miami with the Spanish trip. But we're working to sort of interweave a personal passion with Spanish language or Spanish culture. And we encourage everyone to be there. It's a public event. I went there last year with my friends. Everyone in Spanish National Honor Society is going to be there. You get to see projects about Argentinian coffee brewing or solving tourism issues in Barcelona, right? That's a hot topic. So really interesting, and we hope to see everyone there. And I'll pass the mic on over to Ella to talk about Cartagena now.
So like the other trips, it was certainly culturally enriching. And I think some of our favorite activities were definitely like the ones where we got to interact with the locals and also be able to see the many sites of Cartagena. One of the things that made it so special was we did have language classes. So we'd go for maybe 3 or 4 hours each day, and our teachers were so kind. Like, we got put in these different classes, and I remember we also got to go on some tangents and learn a bunch of new vocabulary from them. But the most special moments were when we were able to go and take a walk around the old city and be able to interact with the vendors and the locals and really understand how to practice our Spanish with native speakers. And some of the things that like we ate were probably like arepas, and I'm blanking on the other one. Ceviche, yes. And a lot of traditional foods that you'd find in Colombia. And it was really fun to be able to like barter prices when you're at sort of more market areas, and that was a fun activity that we would come together afterwards and be like, oh, what'd you get like this for? Or it was just a lot of fun to understand that culture there. Some of our activities specifically included dance and music. So one day we went to, I believe it was a sort of beach area, and we got to have a drum lesson. So we got to learn all the different ways, and we got to play with the professionals and have a show. And then in the end, we all came together and danced, and that was a highlight of that day because we were all so happy that we got to actually learn. And then another part that I think actually was probably everyone's favorite part was we got to go to a school for little kids, and we got to interact with them, teach them games. They taught us games, and we got to talk to them and get to know them. And it was really funny because you can kind of see how some hot topics are universal. Like the movie K-pop Demon Hunters was very popular there. But the kids were very adorable, and as we left, they were all really sad that we were leaving, and they wanted us to come back, and they gave us big hugs. Some of us got bracelets, and it was just really amazing to be able to interact on that level. Other activities included a cooking class where we actually did make our own arepas and also learned how to tie fish so you're able to grill it. And then it ended, of course, with a feast all together, and that was really special because you're able to come together and eat something that you created, and it's you connect on a certain level with that. Obviously, there were some hiccups in our voyage back, but we're really grateful for our chaperones because they were able to keep calm, make sure we had all our supplies and what we needed, 3 meals a day, a place to stay, and also had us have activities back in Miami.
Sure, a couple highlights for me. The fisherman's village. We went to a fisherman's village, and that's what I was talking about with the school, the fisherman's children. We went to their school aged up to 5th grade, and one of the first things that the kids said to me or gestured to me, because he saw that I was wearing a football jersey, a soccer jersey, was, "Do you play?" And from there, we talked, we were just, introductions and everything, but they were getting the ball and everything. They were setting up goals behind us, and it was amazing. And they are really, really good. Yeah. They're so young, but they're amazing. They're really awesome. Yes. And this isn't something that my group in language classes, it's not something that all the groups did, but we went to a university there, and we got to talk with college students. We asked them, what are you studying? What do you do for fun outside of school? What's your daily routine like? And I think, everyone wants to go to the beach when they go to Columbia. Everyone wants to try the food, but really, I don't know if it's my place to be like, hey, if we do a trip like this in the future, but, talking with students and forming these connections, like, we live miles apart, and yet, like, you lock eyes with me and we're playing a game together, right? So, and talking with students, talking with university students, those are some of the best moments we had, because, they are speaking to us in English sometimes, we're speaking Spanish, we both get to practice, and our lives become so much more interesting in front of each other, because we want to know, what's your life like, what's your life like, what do you do, and how is your culture different from mine, and that's super awesome. Yeah. And I guess one more board relevant item is during one of our language sessions, my group, we were super close with our instructor, and our classes were super casual. It was amazing. The language school there is awesome, and he started talking to us about the culture in the U.S. We got to screenagers, we got to what is phones like in school, and the next thing I know, I'm talking about the phone policy. And we have a whole discussion in Spanish about the pouches, and no one uses them, but we don't use them in school anymore. And it was I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. But yes, the trip was amazing, and we'd really like to thank Mr. Lopez, Ms. Bromberg, and Ms. Ware for their support and really just keeping everything together, holding down the fort while we are trying to make the best out of our staycation in Miami, and they are just trying to keep everyone together and enjoy themselves as well. So, thank you.
What did you do in Miami?
Oh, Miami. Okay, well, in Miami, things were kind of crazy. We get to the hotel, and they're like, we have all these planned activities in Colombia, but in Miami we have nothing because we're just stranded here, essentially. So they get consent from our parents, signed consent from our parents, that's saying we can go out in big groups and we can go do our own thing. So there's a group that went go-karting, there was a group that went to go see the movies, there was a beach group that was with Mr. Lopez, but really it was a time of independence for us because the chaperones couldn't be everywhere at once, so I went with my friends to the city twice, unsupervised. We went, the trains there are free, there's a free circuit where you can tour this, and it was amazing, yeah.
You heard it was approved by their parents. You heard that consent piece.
Yes, approved by parents.
So.
How many people were on the Columbia trip? How many students?
27? 27, yeah. Big group.
And how about?
So this year Italy was 12, last year France was around 23, and the year before Italy was in the 20s also. Yeah, you had a much bigger group. I also want to recognize and thank all the chaperones. I mean, it is an interesting conundrum when you're traveling. Things always come up, and all of our chaperones for both trips really did an exceptional job with some adversity, whether it was a missed flight or a flight that got canceled or someone who got locked in a bathroom stall, and like things come up, and navigating all of these things, it is what you said, seeing the adults stay very calm and working the problem is very important. That's a good life skill. So kudos to the kids and kudos to the chaperones.
And I know we need to move on. I'll be really brief. Several years ago, we had stopped providing this opportunity for international travel. We brought it back. It is something that's a sacrifice for families, and we understand that. The superintendent approves the trips. It brought us a heads up to the board. Melissa Szymanski recreated the policy at my request. and we wanted to update the board, and I would actually think there should be updates back within the high school to peers and all the rest about what you learned. I may talk with Mr. Klayman about that, because I think there's so much to do from this. A few can go, but I think we're now getting a nice critical mass, and notice it's the World Language Department under Mr. Lopez's leadership. Ms. Driscoll's been excellent at doing this. So I think it's a plus. Only proportionally a few students can go, but I think it's an important thing we keep providing here in Hastings, and I think we do want to move on. So, yep.
I do want to just say to your point that I have always been fiercely conscious of the financial cost of trips and how we have to always be thinking about are there ways to make it available to students whose families may not be able to just afford trips. I think it's really important.
And just to add, so Mrs. Driscoll was working with Youth Council, and so there are scholarship opportunities too, because that was heard, and I know that's been discussed by the board previously, and so working that through has been important.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all in the audience for being very patient. We're going to move on to public comment. I believe that we will call you up, and I just want to remind people of a few things to please speak into the mic. Speak loudly, slowly, and into the mic. Introduce yourself, your name, and if you're a Hastings resident. And remember that your comments are limited to 3 minutes, and there will be an interesting noise that goes off at the end of 3 minutes.
Joseph Drake.
You can pick it up.
Turn it on.
Take it out.
Actually, pick it up, Joe. You can pick it up and turn it.
Turn it on the side.
Hello?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect.
Well, I see some familiar faces. I am Joseph Drake. I am a wrestler at Hastings High School. And I try to pride myself as being a leader. Leadership is something that comes from school, comes from staff, administration, and with all this wrestling news and everything, in my opinion, I feel like the leadership was broken. The trust I felt broken, and it put me into a place that I didn't want to be in. On the day that happened, I was not at practice. I had no idea what happened. I get told, oh, practice canceled the next day, and the next. And then on Friday, we had a meeting with some administrators where we were told what happened and what went down. Then we were made aware that there's a meeting on Friday determining our season, or Thursday. And so I left class at the end of the day on Thursday, and I saw Dr. McCursey, and I talked to him, and I said hi. And I asked him how the meeting went. Of course, he couldn't tell me what the verdict was, but I understood, and I went back to class for 3:15 coaching, where I bumped into a student. The student comes up to me and he says, "Hey, it was a good season, right?" I was confused. I looked at him and I said, "What do you mean?" He proceeded to tell me that the email that the school sent was told to most students by their teachers, and they were asked, "Oh, what'd the wrestling team do?" That really made me feel horrible, and I did not feel good at all. The next day, I went to school in my Hastings wrestling sweatshirt. I was told that I was horrible, that this was no place in Hastings for this, yet I didn't do a thing. And I was told I'm an embarrassment to the program. It got to a point where I had to explain myself to parents at a holiday party that night about how I did nothing wrong. I was approached by these parents and practically cornered in a room, and I had to tell them, hey, I did nothing wrong, and it was horrible. The fact that the incident was so publicly shared just made me feel horrible, and it was so bad. All the matches were canceled, and that led to me not being able to do something as all section, all league. A lot of my fellow wrestlers try to wrestle in college. You need that for college. You can't just say, hey, this is my record. They want to look at section trophies, all of that, and not just records. This led to multiple wrestlers, because of the canceling, being disqualified from the sectional championships to even show themselves and prove themselves. Some of my friends were banned, not allowed, and at tournaments were heckled, saying, "Hey, you're the Hastings kids, we don't want you here." The district's blanket approach, instead of singling out the people who did wrong, made us all guilty in everyone's eyes, and I think is very unfair. Thank you.
Thank you. Lewis O'Brien.
Thank you.
Hello? My name is Lewis O'Brien. I go to Farragut Middle School. I'm in 6th grade. I just want to say that the enrichment program has been really good for me. I learned so much. I think that it was a really good opportunity, and I think that it should be provided in 7th grade for students too. There's programs for students that don't fully understand the curriculum and what they're doing, but I think that there should also be a program for students who understand, because otherwise math class can get repetitive and boring for them, and then that's not keeping them stimulated and helping them grow. And so I just wanted to say that I think that there should be algebra in 7th grade, and I think that there should be an enrichment class to help students thrive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlotte Janowski.
Okay. Good evening, board members. My name is Charlotte. I'm 11 years old in 6th grade. I'm here tonight because next year I want the opportunity to enroll in 7th grade algebra. I have been looking forward to this for years, and I'm worried that this opportunity has been taken away before I even get a chance to try. To be honest, I'm very bored in math class. I have been for a long time. In Hastings, I have done a lot of differentiation packets over the years. Like a lot. Maybe hundreds, maybe even thousands. The thing is, I don't want to do differentiation packets anymore. When you work on a packet by yourself, there's no instruction. You don't get to ask questions or have a real conversation about the math. You're just sitting there in the corner doing more of what you already know. It doesn't actually teach you anything new beyond the lesson everyone else is doing. Math 6 feels exactly like Math 5, 4, and 3. Here's what my daily life looks like. At the start of class, we do the do now and the lesson. Then I go get the enrichment packet. This is supposed to be deeper, but it's usually just the same grade level concept. After that, I do the 7th grade packet. Sometimes that's actually easier than the 6th grade one. When I finish that, which is usually pretty fast, I just wait. Sometimes I do my homework, sometimes I help other students. And then I wait for the bell to ring. I feel like I'm just sitting there when I could be learning real structured math. My teachers are wonderful. In 5th grade, one even made me a giant 3-ring binder of packets to take home so I could start learning algebra on my own. I love them for trying, but I don't want differentiation anymore. I want a class where I don't already know the answers before the teacher starts talking. I love my Math 6 enrichment class and the projects we do, but I'm ready for new concepts. Second, I want to prove I'm ready. I have mastered the skills. Let me take a placement test. Give me a whiteboard, linear equations, Pythagorean theorem. Math is great, and I'm ready to prove myself. Let me show you what I can do before the district decides I have to wait another year. I've spent years in class without learning anything new, and it's becoming discouraging. I love math, and I don't want to lose that feeling. Please help me in the right direction by having algebra in 7th grade as an option. Thank you for listening to us kids and for everything you do for our school and community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosie Janowski.
Is this thing on? Okay. Hi, my name is Rosie. I'm Charlie's twin sister, and I live in Hastings. And most importantly, I love math, and I mean a lot. It's fun, and it's the language of the universe. Next year, I will be in 7th grade. I was so excited to have the opportunity to be sitting in an algebra class, but this chance has disappeared. At Hillside, we had an enrichment class. When I arrived at FMS in 5th grade, there was not any enrichment. Then at the end of the year, disaster struck. 7th grade algebra was canceled. And I came here to speak to all of you because the kids a grade ahead of me needed help. Fortunately, the school reinstated the option to take algebra, and this year's class got to take it. And the class before them, and the class before them, and the class before them. I would like this opportunity too. And I'm now here advocating for myself, my twin sister, my friends, my classmates, and even my little sister. School is a place to learn, not sit around in complete boredom where your teacher frantically searches for something for you to do because you finished all of her worksheets. This makes me feel discouraged and frustrated and like I said, bored. So bored. School is a place to learn, and if you take away 7th grade algebra, I'm afraid I won't be learning for several more years. The situation is like Groundhog's Day from the end of last year. I don't know why this is happening, and I wish it would. The math enrichment class is great, but that was a small step. Taking 7th grade algebra will be even better. Albert Einstein once said, "Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving." Math is also like riding a bicycle. Right now, we need 7th grade algebra to keep our balance, or else the wheels won't move an inch. Thank you.
Thank you. Nora Hurd.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nora Hurd, and I am a 6th grader at FMS. I would like to quickly say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'm grateful to be in a school where students are encouraged to share their thoughts and advocate for their learning. Today, I want to share something important about my learning experience in regular math class. While I understand that every class is designed to meet the needs of many students, I personally do not always feel challenged enough by the current material. I complete my work quickly and often find myself wanting to dig deeper or move ahead. When I'm not challenged, I sometimes feel less engaged, even though I genuinely enjoy math and want to grow in the subject. I believe that being challenged is a crucial part of learning. When work pushes me to think harder, solve more complex problems, and make mistakes that I learn from, I feel more motivated and excited about school. That is why I would love the opportunity to participate in an algebra program. I believe that algebra would not only challenge me academically, but also allow me to develop stronger critical thinking and problem-solving skills. From my experience this year, I've noticed that when I finish assignments early, which is often, I spend time reviewing work or bored, watching the class solve problems I've already done instead of learning something new. While I try to use that time productively, I sometimes feel like I'm not reaching my full potential. However, in math enrichment, when I've been given more advanced or challenging problems, I have felt way more focused, more determined, and more proud of what I accomplish. Those experiences have shown me just how much I value being pushed academically, and I want to feel that sense of growth on a regular basis, not just every other day last period. More than anything, in summary, I want to be challenged. In past years, students have had the opportunity to participate in an algebra program that allowed them to move ahead and grow academically. I respectfully hope I can have that same opportunity. I'm ready for higher expectations and more advanced material, and I truly believe being part of an algebra program would help me continue progressing and reaching my full potential. Thank you for considering my request.
Thank you.
Tova Janowski.
Hello, Board of Education. My name is Tova. I'm a 9-year-old 4th grader here at Hillside. Someone told me that a strong public argument opens with a joke or two. Here goes nothing. What's a bird's favorite subject? Owl-gebra. I would like to take owl-gebra as a 7th grader one day. I would even take trig, but graphing? That's where I draw the lines. But seriously, I'm back here tonight again to advocate for math. Math is a big part of my life. Outside of school, I participate on a math team. We work hard. As one example, last year, my teammates and I finished 4th place regionally and 7th place nationally in the Continental Math League competition against thousands of students. It was awesome. I love math. My sisters love math. Everybody here loves math. So please don't cancel it. I'm here tonight because I want to see these people have this chance. I also want to have this chance one day. I'm a 4th grader, and I've been in enrichment for 2 years. Right now, there's no plan for any enrichment for anybody when we get to 5th grade at FMS next year. Please have a plan for me and for all of us. You're taking this opportunity away from us before we've even had the chance to prove ourselves. And here's the thing. No 7th grade algebra, no 8th grade geometry, no 9th grade algebra 2, no 10th grade pre-calc, no 11th grade calculus, and then poof, I'm in a calculus-based physics class without the calculus prerequisite. How am I going to calculate an object's velocity from its position over time? But seriously, we need to calculate how fast we're going by looking at where we've been. It's a metaphor. If you cancel the opportunity for algebra now, you're canceling opportunities for the future that didn't even have a chance to come. Thank you, and vote for math.
Thank you.
Abel Brown.
You have to use the mic.
Okay. Basically, every other viewpoint that will be expressed or has been expressed by me. Last year, I'm Abraham, I support 7th grade algebra. If you want to know my other viewpoints, you should have listened to other people.
Thank you.
Rachel Thornton.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I live in Hastings. I have 3 kids, ages 4 through 9. This is a general comment about the turf field stuff. Full disclosure, I voted against artificial turf fields for a few reasons, but the largest among them was a concern about the presence of PFAS in the materials. I do think that this is a concern for many people in this town, including those that did vote for the turf. The Board of Education rightly understood this and included in the vote a clause to state that the turf would be PFAS-free. And I personally know that many people use this as the basis for their yes vote. Therefore, it is incumbent on the Board of Education to follow through on their promise and do the appropriate testing required to confirm that the turf is, in fact, PFAS-free. If there are no products that fit this requirement, then we have to look beyond and elsewhere. Taking the manufacturer's word about their own product is a huge conflict of interest, not to mention that, as previously commented at other meetings, there are many problems with how they do their testing. When there are reputable outside labs that are available and have been suggested, what is to hold Hastings back from doing their own testing? PFAS should be taken very seriously. Just ask the 3 Olympians who were disqualified due to the presence of PFAS on their equipment. We should do right by our town and make sure that this huge investment, which will cover an expansive area, is true to its own claims. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chloe Teasdale.
Hi, you all know me. I'm Chloe Teasdale. I live at 8 Southgate. I have 2 kids in the district, 5th grade and 3rd grade, both athletes. I also voted no on the turf for multiple reasons, and I've talked to you about many of them. I wanted to build on what Rachel spoke about and give you a very quick example of one of the ways that the companies get around testing. So this isn't what I do. I'm not a chemical engineer, but I do understand lower limit of detection, mostly for infectious disease surveillance, but it's the same principle. So if we wanted to measure how much soda was in a can of Coke, right? We know that it's 39 grams of sugar, or I'm telling you that now, right? We, as parents, we probably know that. If the company set the lower limit of detection for their test at 100, they could be certified as having a sugar-free can of Coke. That's how this works. And that is, again, one of the ways that turf companies and other chemical companies, it's exactly what the tobacco companies did with nicotine, with testing for nicotine. They set the lower limit of detection higher. They could say it's safe, it's fine. So it's, again, it's really, as Rachel said, incumbent on you. We are counting on you to protect our kids. It's why we voted you into your positions. It's why you're here. We need you to do it. We don't get a say in who you pick. We have to trust you, and you have to be critical, and we have to use outside testing before it's installed, not after, like what happened in New Hampshire, which I'm sure you're all aware of. And now there's a lawsuit. So we have to be careful about that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Volpone.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Volpone. I am a parent. I'm speaking tonight as a parent of a student athlete on the wrestling team. I'm concerned the board may be operating under the belief that this incident involved the entire team. That was never communicated to families, and it is not accurate. I want to be clear that I agree inappropriate student behavior must be addressed and that accountability matters. However, I am deeply disappointed in how this situation was handled and the impact it has had on students who were not involved. Decisions were made that characterized an entire team as responsible, and those statements had real consequences. My son and his teammates experienced stigma, judgment, and emotional distress as a result. Parents were not included in the process, and families learned critical information secondhand. My son called me at the end of the school day, Friday, December 19th, understandably very upset. "Mom, the season has been canceled." When I asked him how he knew, it was apparent that the teachers had received an email and were telling all of the students in class that their season was over. I got off the phone with my son and I immediately called the principal. I requested a meeting so parents could understand who was involved in the decision-making process and how it was made. I'm still waiting for that meeting 2 months later. Schools are entrusted with the care of children. That responsibility includes not only discipline, but fairness, transparency, and compassion. When mistakes happen, students deserve guidance and support, not collective blame. I'm here tonight because parent involvement matters. Our children are directly affected by these decisions, and their voices and ours deserve to be a part of the conversation moving forward. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I sincerely hope the district reflects on how communication and decision-making affects students long after a decision is made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gail Panero.
Hi, my name is Gail Panero, and my son also is on the wrestling team, and I would just like to reiterate what Kelly and Joe did say, that this was a very strong email that went out to for all of the kids that were on the team, that a lot that did not participate in any of this, and there were very strong ramifications. So, you know, being labeled a monster, being ridiculed, it's not acceptable, whether they took part at all. I sent probably 25 emails to get information about what was going on. It was not transparent at all. We were consistently told, you'll hear from us, you'll hear from us, you'll hear from us. Once I found out that these kids were now being labeled and called names and ridiculed, that's when I pretty much forced the hand and insisted on a meeting. And I was met with folded arms and told, I will not retract anything. I'm not the one calling them a monster, and I'm not the one responsible for rumors. Again, do I need to even say that every single child needs to be protected in the school, whether you feel they did something wrong or not? That's not acceptable on any level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alyssa Cohen.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alyssa Cohen. I have two children in the district in fifth grade, in sixth grade and in 10th grade. And I couldn't possibly top what the students have already said who've spoken. But I'm just here, I have two students who are really very different academically, and I can see the strengths and weaknesses in real time of some of our academic offerings. And I am just here to plead with this board and the administrators to please keep the enrichment option for 7th graders. That's both algebra and the enrichment program. I know that it has been a game changer for my son in terms of his academics. I can see the light going on in his eyes, right? It's just teaching him critical thinking, pushing him forward from being, you heard from these students, they said they were bored. That wasn't the word I was going to use. I was going to say not challenged. And it has been a game changer. And I think it boosts his self-esteem. It will be a benefit to the district going forward to have these kids. I mean, we've been on a swivel with this middle school. I mean, I think there is no more appropriate night than to talk about this when we've just had the introduction of the, I don't know what number middle school principal this is since I've been in this district, but it is critical that we have quality and consistency for our middle school students as they begin their journey, to higher, I would say, it's higher education, but really high school and then college. We need to prepare them. I mean, there was a giant gap. We've been here year over year to talk about this gap, and I felt like we did something good. We got it, we had it, and now we're swinging back again. And it feels deeply unfair to these kids who we made promises to, that they were gonna have these offerings, they were gonna have these opportunities. And for those who maybe aren't going to do algebra in 7th grade, the enrichment gives them the opportunity to be prepared for when they do take algebra in 8th grade, which is still early, right? That's been the gap. I've been here at all of these meetings when we were talking about that gap. We had a significant achievement issue in the algebra class in 8th grade because kids were not prepared. So this is giving some kids this opportunity to really thrive and to do so in a way where there actually aren't, the failing consequences that they're going to be thrown into when they get to 8th or 9th grade. So please, please, please don't forget about these kids. They are so smart. They are really the pride of what we have in this community, and they deserve everything that we have to offer for them. So please, please don't forget about them. And please reinstate that program, whether it's before school, during school, whatever it is, please, please, please do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kate Janowski.
Is it on? Okay. Good evening. My name is Kate Janowski. I've lived in Hastings for 10 years and I have 3 children in our school district. We need urgent clarification on why there is no plan for the continued enrollment of qualified 7th graders in Algebra 1, a successful enrollment option that has existed consistently in our district for over a decade. I'd like to build off of something Alyssa just said. Math is cumulative, and in parenting we play the long game, right? 2 middle school principals ago, when this current cohort was in 4th grade, I met with the then 2 principals ago of the middle school to tell him that Hillside had just rolled out a new math enrichment program for the 4th graders, and after setting exceptionally high criteria, they didn't have 1 or 2 kids, they had 10, and then they had 14. And I took that meeting with him and I said, these kids are coming. I don't know what I'm asking for, but please be ready for them and have a plan for them. We talked about 6th grade pre-algebra. We talked about all kinds of things. These kids showed up in 5th grade to nothing. And then in 6th grade, we have math enrichment, and now you're canceling the 7th grade algebra program. Providing Algebra 1 to qualified 7th graders is a regional and national standard. Canceling it will put our district behind. Children here in Hastings look forward to this opportunity because they truly deeply love math. To the phrase double acceleration, for some, I would respectfully request that the district stop using that phrase. For some students, forcing them to remain in Math 7 is in fact a double holdback. It causes real frustration and engagement for motivated children. It implies that children are being wrongly pushed or getting some kind of perk, when in reality it is the curriculum that has simply failed to keep pace with them. It is not the children's fault. And if the students do not meet objective criteria, that's absolutely fine. But they deserve a placement determined by data, not by some arbitrary ceiling. This is Hastings. We don't do ceilings in Hastings. And finally, I want to address the reasoning shared at the February 10th, 2026 meeting at approximately timestamp hour 2 and 12 minutes, which suggested a choice must be made between, quote, dedicated seats for double accelerated students and, quote, deploying those budgetary resources for those not yet meeting benchmarks. Upon hearing this, I immediately sought to understand. I thought that moving a student from a Math 7 seat to an Algebra 1 seat was, in fact, the most effective choice, but most efficient choice from a budgetary perspective. Placing students where they belong, rather than continuing to brainstorm and reinvent differentiation of unknown quality for students who are already years ahead in the curriculum, or at worst, abandon them to boredom and set them up for behavioral issues in inappropriate classrooms that move too slowly. I asked the administration directly, what is the budgetary impact of double acceleration? The response that I received is that there is none. It is budget neutral. The district later supplemented this response in writing that, quote, as for the budgetary impact, well, at face value, it is flat. This could potentially be relevant based on sectioning and in class sizes based on qualifying 7th graders, end quote. I am grateful for this clarification, and I ask that the board please have this record clarified. Therefore, in conclusion, I would like to say, let's take the easy win and keep our students engaged in what they love. WIN is something we understand in Hastings. WIN is W-I-N. It stands for what I need. We have it in all of our classes, and what these students need is the continuation of this ongoing opportunity to enroll in Algebra 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bales Brown.
Good evening. My name is Bales Brown, and I'm also a resident of Hastings and a parent of 2 children in the district. A good math education for all. That's the gist of what I'd like to say today. Let's provide a good math education for all. I'd like to thank Dr. McCursky, Dr. Smansky, and the Board of Education for the opportunity to speak today. I also wanted to thank the Math Committee, which I know has been working hard over the last year, revamping the math roadmap and serving in lieu of the math department chair. So to get back to it, a good math education for all. Academics. Academics are important. Academics are the purpose of school, of course, but let's not take that for granted. I want to stand here today and say academics are important in Hastings, in class and in school-sponsored extracurricular activities. And math is important by itself and because it's a prerequisite for strong science and engineering. Good math for all. This means 7th grade algebra for algebra-ready students. It also means differentiated math earlier, maybe pre-algebra in 6th grade. Definitely stronger core curriculum at Hillside. It means intervention and remediation for those who are falling behind. Differentiation is important to meet students at the right level for them, and it's feasible. We can send students to different classes. We have the tools to measure ability, including, but not limited to, the STAR assessment that I believe it was Dr. Szymanski put in place a few years ago. There's a fallacy that I sometimes hear, which I specifically want to address. I'm not asking, I don't think any of us are asking, for you to favor some kids over other kids. This isn't about the accelerated students versus the struggling students. You don't have to hurt some kids to help others. Let's provide a good math education for all. And with the time remaining to me, on behalf of the STEM Booster Club, I'd like to highlight our February 23rd letter to the board, which has 57 signatures now and rising. The document has been emailed, I think, to all of you, but I have copies if anyone needs to see it, and it's shared on social media and stuff. So for next year, we ask a few things. We ask you preserve 7th grade algebra. We ask that you publish a math roadmap. And we ask that you partner with Hastings families to talk about the plan going forward. But looking beyond next year, we want to highlight a few other needs. We need comprehensive math progressions throughout K through 12 that meet the needs of all learners. We need transparent, criteria-based acceleration pathways. We need advanced coursework offerings. And we need math extracurriculars such as the AMC, the AME test, the USAMO, those sorts of things. You don't have to choose between excellence and equity. We can provide a good math education for all. So let's do it.
Thank you.
Jenny Aslapan.
Hello? Yes. Hi, my name is Ginny Estepan, and I'm...
Can you speak right into the mic?
Sorry. I'm the mother of 2 children in the school district, and I want to talk about the algebra program. Frankly, I'm a bit unclear why it's not being offered. I think the reasons have been stated. It offers a differentiated education using already existing infrastructure. I think we all know the saying, idle hands are the devil's workshop. These kids want to be challenged. Let's give them an opportunity to get that challenge. I think it helps them as well. And then as I understand it, we're using existing classes in the 8th grade, so I'm not sure why we wouldn't be offering this for our students. The next bit, just like these kids said, these teachers have to provide differentiated education for them in the classroom. I would think that by letting these kids take 7th grade algebra, you're alleviating a teacher's burden in all of this. And the last bit, I think I heard that there were some concerns that kids might fail this or it might be really hard for them. I think that's okay. I think there isn't a thing where we say, well, a kid win or loses in algebra. There's a win and learn. So let's give this kids an opportunity to take algebra in 7th grade. Thanks.
Thank you.
Lauren Glazer.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Glazer. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting. I'm here to share my perspectives as a Hastings resident and parent of a 4th and 6th grader, so you can guess what I'm going to talk about. You heard from my 6th grader earlier, and I could not be more proud of the passion with which she has thrown herself into everything at FMS. She is thriving in this environment. She's in clubs, she's on the debate team, which you could probably tell from her speech. She's challenging herself in everything that she does, and she's trying to find her growth edge. And this year it's been so gratifying to see her discover a love of math through the enrichment program. And it was my understanding, based on the classes who had come before her, that she would continue on with that math enrichment and maybe have the opportunity to try her hand at making it into algebra in 7th grade. And we don't know if that would happen, but she really wants the opportunity. And I truly believe in letting every child rise to the level of their own potential, to be challenged in a safe environment. And I thought that FMS would be that place for my 2 kids. And I'm hoping she will have that opportunity to be challenged in a safe environment, and that her younger sibling will as well, if that's in their reach. Certainly not at the expense of any children who need more support in math, but in addition, I can't see it as a zero-sum game. So I thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Una Peterson.
Good evening. My name is Una Peterson. I have 2 children, one in 6th grade and one in 8th grade. I'm also here to talk about math. Thank you so much for your time and attention. My daughter has also been asking for additional math work since the end of 2nd grade, and she has just loved having the math enrichment program this year. She's spent most of the year excited about the opportunity to try algebra next year, and I just hope that she and the other students will have that opportunity. And it's my hope that, we've been speaking tonight about so many things this community has lobbied so hard for, the turf fields, the expansion of the building. We're here in this multi-purpose room. And so my hope would be that something that I think has significantly less expenditure, we could also push for, especially when we obviously have so many students who want it so badly. I hope that our community really celebrates the children's desire to do more math and moves forward with that. As some people have mentioned, I've also found that it's been really opaque when there is any enrichment, what the criteria are. And so right now it's opaque because we don't even know if it's offered, but I hope that if it is offered, that we have, as has been mentioned, a clear roadmap. Other public schools nearby get a roadmap in elementary school about what the offerings are in middle school, what they can plan for, and we just haven't had that in the 10 years that we've been here. So thank you so much for your time, and I really hope we can have additional math offerings in the future.
Thank you. Sashi Navarti.
Hey there, Shashi Nivarti, resident of the village. I'm here to talk about the math enrichment and advancement program. We have two kids in the school, a sophomore and a 7th grader. Despite what the school said, our oldest in 7, she is now doubling up in pre-calc and algebra honors. Right. When she was in 7th grade, she was actively discouraged from enrolling in algebra at that time. She was surprised, she was distraught, but she said, you know what, if the school doesn't want me to do it, I'll still going to do it. So she did it outside school. Our youngest in 7th grade now was again denied the opportunity to get into algebra in 7th grade. This is because of the whole miscommunication that happened with the administration in the 2024-25 school year. I won't go into the details. As you are aware, based on the formal complaint we filed with the Commissioner of New York State Department of Education this year. Given all this, I would have thought, hey, the school would actually make an effort, and the Board of Education, everybody would make an effort to ensure that this will not happen again. And what we are learning now is the school is considering pulling advanced algebra altogether. In an environment where, scores are falling universally, and there are kids who are interested in doing math, it is sad that our school district says, okay, we are not going to offer any differentiated programming based on the kids' interest. We rely on irrelevant tests like STAR, and we do not seek input based on student interest, progress in class, state tests, family input, and our teacher recommendations. Right? There is, as one parent already mentioned, there is no clear documentation or a path laid out by the school district on math programs or any of these additional curriculum. Families like us have to use our informal networks, dig around, and gather information. And this is a school district, this is how it behaves. I ask all of you to strongly, consider reinstating the advanced algebra program, provide opportunities for kids based on their aptitude and their interests. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shamiza Hatim.
Good evening. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Great. My name is Shamiza Hatim. I'm a resident here in Hastings. I am also, more importantly, a mom of 5 boys, 1 little girl, but my youngest son, who is the 3rd wrestler in Hastings High School, he was terribly affected, of course, by the incident that occurred in December. He was not involved. He was absent from school on December 19th, and he wasn't involved. But he came home, and he told me that the wrestling program is canceled. And I was stunned to find out from him that the wrestling program is canceled, and there wasn't going to be wrestling. We were all excited and hyped because my other 2 boys participated in the program, and they did very well. And we did a lot of advocating, talking to the assistant principal first, who diverted me to the principal. And finally, with Andrew Wendell, we spent a lot of weeks and days and hours talking about what we can do to get the program reinstated because he wasn't involved in the incident. He wasn't there at all. And eventually in January, the program was reinstated, but it came at a heavy price where he had to practice, catch up on practice, and get a lot of the matches condensed into a short period of time in order to participate in tournaments and sectionals, which he did. But through it all, it has been a tremendous struggle for us, for him, as a student in navigating him through the process. And we feel that there was a lack of transparency and a lack of proper communication as to how the incident in December was handled, could have been handled. Ultimately, we're very proud that the boys ended up going to the sectionals and they had tournaments, they participated, he medaled in second place. We're grateful for that, but it was really, really difficult in understanding what led to him, to the program being canceled altogether without, properly being notified of how, how he was involved. So I'm here tonight, and I'm hoping that in the future, if there is a reoccurrence and with any of our students, they're growing, they're learning. We have to nurture them through the process. So if there's ever a reoccurrence, that there be better communication with the district and us, our families, so that we can better be there to support our kids and our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jacob Yannick.
Hi, I am Jacob Yannick, and I'm a 6th grader at FMS. And I think it would be incredible for algebra in 7th grade to be an option next year. I've always loved math and always been fascinated by it. After I've been going to this math enrichment program now, it has already helped me so much more with the understanding of the topic. But if you give us the opportunity to take algebra next year, it will shape our futures permanently. Currently, in my regular math class, I'm revisiting topics that I mastered in 4th grade. This makes math unproductive and boring. It slows down what I need to be doing, growing and learning in math. If you can give us a chance to learn at our level, then this will change our school in the best way possible. Just as those who may need more help with math get it, why aren't we getting the program we need? What I want is for everyone in my grade to learn what we need to learn, ahead or behind. But if you don't pass this program, it will harm every student's learning, regardless of whether they take algebra. The people in my current class deserve to get the proper attention and education. If my teacher is focused on helping too many people with too many different skill levels, no child can learn to their fullest. This results in nobody getting the proper help that they deserve. So if you want every person in our school to actually grow with their schoolwork and not just be stuck in one place with it, then ensure that algebra will be a possibility next year. It won't take much for you, but it will change my life exponentially. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan Volhone.
Son? All right. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Ryan Volpone. I'm a sophomore and a captain of the Hastings varsity wrestling team. I wanted to come up here and speak on my perspective about the wrestling season being canceled and how it affected me and my teammates, and mostly importantly, representing my team as a whole. I feel a responsibility to speak on behalf of my teammates, our coaches, and our families. The cancellation of our season felt unjustified to the circumstances, and it was inconsistent with how similar issues have been handled within other athletic programs. My intention here is not to criticize or punish other teams for past incidents, but rather to highlight what appears to be a lack of consistency in disciplinary outcomes across varsity athletics. The Hazen-related concern involved a limited number of people on the team. While I fully agree and understand that inappropriate behavior must be addressed appropriately, There were no prior meetings, team discussions, talks, warnings, or corrective steps taken before the decision to suspend, and ultimately cancel the season. Coaches were given no opportunity to intervene or correct behavior before the most severe consequence was imposed. And the speed of the decision gave the impression that the program itself was not valued, nor were the players of the team. Additionally, our wrestling program is uniquely vulnerable. During the entirety of the season, we had no seniors, 2 juniors, and a roster that was composed of underclassmen and middle school athletes. We're a small team without strong upperclassmen representation. Because of this, the majority of our athletes are still developing, not only as competitors, but as students and young people learning. When consequences are applied broadly to the entire program, they fall most heavily on those who are the youngest and least responsible for the issues in question. Many of these athletes were participating in their first varsity season and lost a formative experience that cannot be recreated. Wrestling also provided structure and motivation for academic accountability. Maintaining academic standards to keep playing the sport pushed many of us to maintain stronger grades, and with the season being canceled, that took away a bunch of structures for many of the students that wanted to keep good grades to keep playing. Wrestling is not just a sport, it's a program that teaches discipline, responsibility, and respect. Those values align directly with the goal of the district. Ending a season does not reinforce those lessons, but working through challenges and correcting mistakes and allowing growth does. Most importantly, I ask that the wrestling program is given the same consideration, support, and consistency offered to other varsity teams. Me and my friends deserve the chance to grow from mistakes, compete, and to represent the school with pride. Thank you for listening to my perspective and taking the time to consider the future of our program.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it. Okay, I just want to thank everyone for coming and sitting and listening and providing us with a lot of interesting perspective and commentary on a variety of issues tonight. Thank you. So let's move on to the business items. Items 1 through 13. 14. That's 14.
Yeah, items 1 through 14.
Okay. 1 through 14.
I had a question, Jody. Could I ask one question?
Sure,
Okay.
please do.
Kind of relates to what some of the folks were talking about, and maybe I didn't understand it, but one of the business items is a side letter of agreement for enrichment. Yeah? So I'm just, is this just being announced, or is it a different enrichment? I'm just trying to connect.
No, to be able to do the enrichment that I referenced this year, which is the 10 weeks, twice weekly, 30 minutes. So the students who are not currently participating in 7th grade enrichment, but might have, we are providing an opportunity for them to have access to enrichment this year. And that's what it's a side letter of agreement for that particular Schedule B. So that's what's been in motion, but it did need to be negotiated.
So it's just for 7th grade?
Correct.
Specifically?
Yes.
And the comments on 6th grade enrichment, is that going away?
At this time, there is not a plan to do 7th or 6th grade enrichment next year. That was never something that we offered. It was put into place last year at the middle school level. So we are looking at everything comprehensively, but at this time, we are not looking at moving that forward. We are looking at, from an equity standpoint for this current year, the 7th graders, even though enrichment is not a prerequisite for algebra at all, there was extensive interest. And when I reviewed criteria and timelines and selection processes, I believed that the best thing to do, and Dan Waldeck believed that the best thing to do was to provide enrichment to students who might have been cuspy that didn't have the opportunity to access it in their schedule. So that's the business item.
Okay. And Okay, but sixth grade has it now and will not have it next year?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's not a large number of students, it's one class.
And then there's a survey that informed how this is going to play out, right?
Exactly.
Where did that survey go to? Just
So
the
that
seventh
went
grade?
out to all seventh grade families, and it listed clear criteria for being, if we were able to make this happen, and this is the business item that is formally able to make this happen, it noticed the criteria to participate in the enrichment. It laid out when it would be offered. It was an interest survey to families, and it outlined clearly who would be eligible. So not currently enrolled in enrichment. Also, these are, here's the threshold window they have to be meeting grade level standards or above, et cetera. And so this is really meant to ensure that students who need, for example, remediation can get that through MTSS, and students who are above the benchmark have access to that enrichment. And so we're thinking about all seventh graders this current year, given the structure that was put into place the previous year. And the interest is to ensure an equitable experience, given that some students had the opportunity for enrichment and others did not.
Okay, at the sixth grade?
No, as seventh graders
as seventh
currently.
graders.
Yes.
Did those students have opportunity at the sixth grade level for enrichment?
No.
It was not an existing
They did not.
thing?
It didn't
Okay.
exist. So before this year, we had no enrichment. It was
Before
put
this
in
year,
as
there
a
was no
singleton
enrichment.
class.
And
Yeah.
this year, we had sixth grade enrichment only, and
That's
this
right.
is a sign-off for seventh
Sixth
grade?
and seventh.
Sixth and
We
seventh.
had two, yeah.
Okay.
My understanding is a lot of this was implemented by our previous middle school principal.
Yes.
And there were new changes for the district. And I mean, as a seventh grade parent of two children, you've heard me speak a lot about this year. I think there was a lack of communication around the criteria, and that became confusing for parents, and I think people at the school level alike, to see who was actually part of the cutoff for the enrichment program and who wasn't. So there was a lot of confusion that had to be
Right.
figured out actually by you.
Yes, yes, and it's still being figured out. And so, like with all school districts, certain decisions are made at the building level, certain decisions are made building and district together, and it's very helpful when there's a coherent systemic approach. And so what I've done to strengthen it, and this is not, again, not to speak from a deficit model, just factually, making sure that we're working as a committee and that everybody's involved in understanding what some of those decisions could be, why, and how they would be impactful both on students and on scheduling and on district as students move through a system. So this was a class that was decided upon at the building level, implemented at the building level, raised as a question, and what you're seeing as the business item is to help ensure that there's additional access this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the timing, and Maureen, you raising this is excellent, because as we heard tonight, the key is we need a systemic K through 12 plan on math.
Right.
We need that. And we've been caught in discussions of our own making from within around this course, that course, this course, that course. Rest assured that the new principals had extensive discussion about this. I think you yourselves in talking in terms of whether or not she's a math expert. She's an expert at working with faculty and administrations and districts and resources and addressing things over a continuum. Melissa's stepped in to do excellent work on this. She knows the urgency. I mean, going forward, this has to be with critical input from the building level and the teachers. We need to up our game at the district level to bring that systemic look. Elsewhere in this is the document about the gatekeeping around geometry.
Yeah, that's a great.
There's just too many things going on. I will own it as superintendent in my 5th year, that we have got to sharpen, tighten it down. And it's got to be K-12. That takes a while. So what Melissa's working on is to come back with faculty input, leadership input. Dan is a math person. Lauren is a math person, trying to milk that as much as we can. Lena coming in knowing this is a high priority area, and to get to it in a planful, starting from the middle out. I think middle school 6th through 8th, what is the key focus there? then making sure K through 4, we're feeding into that, and at the high school, making sure we're setting up well. But we know our role, if that's, yes, it's K-12, we got to be very tactical. And we have to get beyond the course-by-course discussion. But if that helps.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
I am not proud of the situation at all. And we're working hard to get it better. And as we recruit and look, it'll be true for the Assistant Director of Special Ed, PPS. Where are you in math? How do you understand math? And other core academic subjects. So.
Got it. Yeah, no, I just wanted to sort of try to understand a lot of the feedback that I was hearing.
Yeah.
And obviously, change is going to impact, at some point, some group, right? So that's the rub. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Catherine, you have brought this up at various times. Very good questions. Given what Bill just said, how does that all sit with you?
It's well with me. I've been following math for the past 10 years in Hastings. And it's part of the reason why I ran for the board. And I'm pleased to, and we've been talking about it a lot this year. Some of you are at these board meetings, some of you are not. You can watch past ones. It's been a hot topic all year long. We've had tough conversations, and I'm pleased to hear this renewed focus on math K through 12. Because as some of the letters that we received also said, it really needs to be a systems approach. We have issues in the middle school, at the high school. It's just, we need to backward map it, looking at college, seeing where we need to get our students, college and beyond. And I'm really heartened to see this renewed focus, looking at data, looking at instruction, looking at leadership, so we can really move this district in math. I think it's a priority. And I'm glad that the board is focused on it as well.
I just have one question, Bill, about the Boxcats proposal for the streaming.
Which number?
This is number 2. I was just curious, and other people have asked me the same question, if we are going to be able to stream our Board of Ed meetings to YouTube. If this will be able to do that, because a lot of people want to be able to play the Board of Ed meetings in double time. They don't like to, I know it, they think these meetings are long. I don't think they are. I think they're wonderful. But they want to know if they're streamed on YouTube, and then they can watch them back on YouTube. And sometimes
They used to go to midnight.
And sometimes, yeah, I think that would be, yeah, if it can. I was looking online a little bit, and it looked like it did. But if it can, that would be great. And
we'll look into that and get back to you. I don't have the answer, but we think.
This is a real question, by the way.
Yeah, we'll get it back to you.
Thank you.
The question of whether it will be able to stream to YouTube? Okay. Everybody ready to vote on the business items, 1 through 14? I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Let's look at the personnel consent agenda. Appointments. Let's see where we are here. Amendments and resignations. It's horrible.
I think we're supposed to exit that door.
Yeah.
It's less, if you don't mind, please, thank you. I know.
It's validating we know when students leave.
No, it's true. That's good. We want that under normal occasions.
And leaves of absence. Anyone have any comments, questions?
Nope.
Okay, have a motion to accept the consent agenda on personnel?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approval of the minutes from the February 10th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Moving right along. A facilities report. You know, Maureen had asked me about it because I think you actually covered everything.
Was the report, you just have to kind of move what I reported. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's the exact meeting.
Yeah, I agree. Maureen covered everything in her discussion.
I vote to put a sign on this door going forward. Do not exit this door
During a board meeting.
during a board meeting. And I vote to fix that door so we don't have to hear that noise.
That certainly is facilities related.
Facilities.
Facilities, yes. Security, actually. They are programs, so I think we can look at, the time on.
I mean, we want to keep it on for children's safety,
Yeah.
for sure. I think we should just guide people to use the other door.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, I don't think I've ever noticed it before.
No, because people don't usually go out that door.
We also don't have that many people show
Okay,
up for
let's
public
go to the
comment.
second public comment.
There's no public, but I would like to make a comment. Board comment. Is it board
I'm
comment?
ready for I have board comments too.
Well, they're coming up.
Okay, I shall wait.
Okay, how about an agenda review? Bill?
On the 17th will be a quite significant meeting. It's the instructional budget. Maureen and I, but we'll be joined by the three principals and Jean, as I'd mentioned from up there when I was speaking, to talk about within the unified budget of their portions of it. Sometimes we've had the athletic director and others. I think we want to really focus in on the three principals and Jean.
Yes.
And Jean quite substantially, because it is a very important budget for special ed in particular.
Yeah.
So, but we're working on that, and that's what we'll bring you on the 17th. As typical, we will walk that in. I'll try the weekend ahead, maybe in a memo, give you some headlines on what's coming, but the particulars will be in that. That'll be the bulk of the meeting.
Board of Ed comments.
Yes. I am sitting here as a board member and feel that I want to publicly say that I am a little disturbed about the comments that we heard, not about the I'm disturbed by what was said tonight about how the wrestling team incidents unraveled. And I'm particularly disturbed by the fact that wrestlers and parents said that some of the wrestlers learned that their season was canceled because teachers received an email and then decided to share that news directly with students. I'd love to learn more about what happened there. Is that true? Were teachers spoken to? Not necessarily now. I just want to share that this sounds like an egregious boundary cross and a really disrespectful way for our wrestlers to find out that their team and to find out that their season was canceled. And if indeed that is the case, has there been any accountability for this way in which the news was shared? I'm also finding it troubling to hear that there were wrestlers who were not even present that day who were severely penalized by having the season initially canceled, then reinstated, communication fuzzy, and being ostracized by the community. It's very troubling. And I think that this should not be the last time we talk about this as a community.
Yeah, well, I can speak to some of it, and some of it regarding students and all the rest. You are allowed to go into executive session because some of this talking about walking the line gets tricky. There's also personnel. The sequencing, my MO has been to give staff a heads up on something that may be impactful for them in their classroom. So an email was shared to say later that day, athletes would be informed and families would be informed, please be forewarned. Since then, I've changed my MO on what I'm sharing, if it's that regard. Because in a small district, as long as I've been here, it has worked. So that then if Jane, Ms. Jane, Mr. John, teacher, bump into something, they have a read on it. But that trust was broken in that way. And certainly with the principals, middle school, high school, we've looked at it and understand going forward. So the sequencing was that same day, give a heads up. Later that there was going to be a meeting, and communication was headed out to families. So that was going to be the way they were going to learn from us with their student learning, not the way it occurred. So we've definitely gone back to look at that and all the rest. Also, the shutdown was team-wide, and then in those meetings moved quickly to say we are going to quickly review where some of you were affected or not, so we could narrow that. But some of those initial team meetings I was part of, Dan was part of, Andy was actually very part of, and I think quite excellent in that moment. Drew was part of it, really speaking to the athletes, reading the room, engaging based on very experienced educators saying right now we are going to continue with this ultimate decision, and we'll work back from that, working right away with various athletes. So some were back in very fast. But I think later in the executive session, if you really want to kind of peel it back to understand athlete by athlete, and indeed the version of the document that's in the public record is different than, if you will, an executive session document. In the sense of not in giving any indication of what happened at different stages. So these are good questions. It may be continue in public. I'm just a little worried that to get to the good understanding that you want, I totally respect it. I'm a little worried that it then stirs back up things that families, rightly so, are feeling upset about.
I understand. So I would respectfully ask that we continue this in private.
I agree with that.
I agree as well.
Yeah, because also I don't want to, it'd be completely wrong of me to comment on comments tonight.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Specifically.
Agreed.
I respect greatly people going to the mic, saying what they said. I see, Joe around all the time. I'm in a public meeting. I respect Joe greatly. I respect that he stood up there and was very critical of my leadership. I respect him as an up-and-coming leader to do that. So I think I'd rather, for the rest of that, do it in a different setting. So.
Yeah, we agree.
I want to add something. I don't want to belabor the point. We had Drew and Andy come up and talk to us about how the harm was restored. And then we had families and students come up who are very much so still harmed by the situation. And there was a little back and forth about the language. Was this hazing? Was this not? Bill, you said it was hazing. Drew kind of doubled down a little and said he still doesn't think so. There seems like they were trying to paint a picture that it was all tied up and wrapped in a bow and everyone's feeling great about everything. But then when the community came and commented, there's trauma that is existing here with families and with students. And I think executive session is a great place to talk about this so we can have a deeper content knowledge about it. But I think that in a district that is really growing restorative practices, these are the bumps in the road that you don't realize that you see is the family wasn't involved in these restorative practice circles, these conversations. Students didn't understand what was happening. Why is this happening to me? So it's a growth opportunity when it comes to it too. But I think maybe Andy and Drew's report was a little premature because we heard a very different story from students today. So I would like to talk about it more in executive session and how we can grow. And one of the students talked a little bit about certain teams get passes with this stuff is happening. And I think we should talk about that too, the equity of discipline. I think someone specifically said it just like that. Because we know that exists and we know that happens. And I think that some of the students on the wrestling team need deeper conversations, more restorative conversations, mediation, something, because you want to make sure that this team really does lift out of this with fidelity.
I'd also like to hear from the middle school in some way, or the leaders, because I think those were the students that were impacted, and that has been rightfully so absent from the conversation, but it's also another piece of it, and we want to make sure that they are doing okay too.
Yeah, I think we should go ahead and try to have an exec session where we can have this on our agenda. And I think I have to assume that, I mean, some of the people who spoke during public comment, I'm sure they knew what they were going to say when they came, but I also think that probably hearing Andy and Drew didn't help them, and I think, to your point, kind of rubbed the wrong way.
I'm going to hold till exec session.
Yeah, okay. I think you should. And I think we will.
Yeah.
We'll learn from it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
The equity piece is a big thing, though, because there have been major behavioral infractions, and teams and seasons have not been canceled for other sports.
So we'll talk about it in exec session. Anybody, anything else? Can I have an motion to adjourn this meeting? Dave Barone?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We're already there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.